In the sky, Duan Yun and Feng Linger were flying wildly. After acquiring these brand new thunder wings, Duan Yun's Qinggong had undoubtedly reached a new level. If his Qinggong used to be called Little Qinggong, now it could be considered a Great Qinggong in the martial world. At this moment, Feng Linger could be said to be tightly pressed against Duan Yun's back, without any distance. The snow mountain was right beneath their feet. A majestic eagle passed them by, and in the next instant, it looked like a roast chicken falling downwards. Suddenly, Feng Linger, who was nearly riding on Duan Yun's back, shuddered unexpectedly, as if Duan Yun had used beaming divine skill on her, causing her to shiver. Duan Yun couldn't help but say, "Why are you shaking so much?" Feng Linger trembled and said, You're leaking electricity." Only then did Duan Yun realize that some currents were escaping from his back, connecting to Feng Linger. He quickly gathered his thoughts, letting the currents return to his body. At this point, Feng Linger exhaled a long breath, punched him gently, and said, "You're so bad. I think you did it on purpose." Duan Yun said, "I didn't." "Yes, you did. I think you have other inappropriate." "Ah!" Duan Yun suddenly accelerated, somersaulting more than 10 times in the air, causing Feng Linger to scream continuously. "You're so bad. You're so fast." After flying for a while, Duan Yun finally brought Feng Linger back down. The blood electricity and true Qi demon electricity seemed endless, but humans ultimately have limits. Once Feng Linger got off Duan Yun, her clothes were in disarray, as if she had just returned from the heavens. Afterwards, the two continued their journey back on horseback. Even though the mountains were high and the road was long, there was a sense of ease and relaxation. Every time he played the role of a demon slayer, especially after a thorough job, Duan Yun always felt this sense of bliss. Such a chivalrous act of cleansing the world of filth always brought peace of mind. However, at this moment, Feng Linger suddenly noticed that Duan Yun had taken out the little book likened to the Yama book again. Duan Yun crossed out the Thunder God and Mother entry and started flipping to the front. This time, if he hadn't known that the Red House madwoman was still alive and associated with the Thunder God and Mother, he might have forgotten that the Red House wasn't yet extinct. He wasn't one to hold grudges, but he clearly recalled what the Red House madwoman said to him the first time he ventured into the martial world. "Gynecologist? I remember you." He remembered it all too well. Could only be said that the Red House girl was very active back then. Just walking down the road, he almost fell victim. Later, for unknown reasons, they became low-key. It might also be because he got too busy, rarely hearing their rumors. But evil is evil. If you offend this young hero, can you still expect to live? Feng Linger asked, "Who are you looking at again?" Duan Yun replied, "Red House." Feng Linger contemplated. "They haven't been active for a long time. The last thing I heard was that there was internal strife in the Red House, and some Red House girls switched to being brothel girls, offering themselves for free indefinitely, earning much praise as benevolent bodhisattvas of the Red House within the martial world." Duan Yun responded, "But have they ever harmed people to death or ruined them? As I learned before, every Red House girl has a murder record, and each must undergo an initiation called fairy cultivation, which involves toying with a man to death before they can join. This young hero here never entertains the notion of putting down the butcher's knife and turning into a Buddha. Such doghouse bodhisattvas deserve their families wiped out. Moreover, as enemies of this young hero, daring to act promiscuously without my permission is simply disregarding me. By the way, where is that brothel you mentioned?" Feng Linger replied, "That building is not fixed. It said they go to visit all 10 places in Zhuzhou, allowing even overseas people in the martial world to enjoy their blessings. I heard during the new year they were in high state." Duan Yun said, "Then let's change course to high state." Feng Linger was shocked. "We're really going?" Duan Yun replied earnestly, "Of course, the young hero is very busy." At that moment, even Feng Linger felt a bit afraid of the little book in Duan Yun's hand. If he really imagined it, it would likely become yet another extermination incident in the martial world. Of course, that was the common perception. For their group of heroes, That would be a great chivalrous deed. A new victory for the young hero and heroine. On the way to High State, Fenglinger still felt it was unbelievable. They were supposed to return home but ended up heading to the coast instead. Duan Yun just finished a big task, and now he's changing course to do another. Could he be too fond of doing this? Just hoping he won't tire himself out. High State, where the sea breeze was gentle. Upon entering High State not long, Duan Yun and Fenglinger could smell the sea's fragrance. High State is the most elongated state in Zhejiang, not large in area, but its population is the most diverse. In other regions of the martial world, people describe them as a mix of fish and dragons. But in High State, the martial world has many kinds of fish and dragons. For instance, in Qingxiang town where they are currently, there are many black people. Very, very dark people. This is because High State borders the sea, and for every 10 navigable routes overseas, 9 start here. Ships run on the sea, coming and going, bringing not just goods but also people. All sorts of people. Duan Yun and his group are going to Yunju City, a coastal city. It's said that this seaside city used to be unremarkable in High State, but ever since the Red House girls changed careers, it's become bustling and famous. It's early spring now. Many places still have a biting spring chill, but High State is already quite warm. Quite a few men and women have already put on short-sleeved shirts, revealing their arms and legs. This place boasts customs and manners that are completely different from other places Duan Yun has visited. In the early morning, carried by the sea breeze bearing the scent of the ocean, Duan Yun and Fenglinger arrived at Yunju City. This is still morning. The freshest fish and seafood have just been transported to the market not long ago. Yet there's a place even more lively than the market. Much more lively. The longest street in Yunju City is called Cloud Water Street, which can be said to run through the entire city. At this moment, a long line has already formed on Cloud Water Street, with both men and women. Duan Yun caught hold of someone and asked, "Little brother, why are so many people lining up here? There's no need for silver to get a number card. How can there not be many people? This is already considered few." The young man replied. Then he couldn't help but continue. "I can tell you're from out of town. The Red House girls only rest for an hour and a half each day. If they're not engaging in philanthropy, they're on the path to philanthropy. But since there's no need for silver, who goes first becomes the issue. Previously, many people fought and killed here, and quite a few died just to vie for a spot. Later, the Red House girls came up with a method which is to issue number cards, and the cards have the time written on them. When it's your turn, regardless of gender, you can go up with the number card. If anyone breaks the rules, the Red House girls will uphold justice and directly kill them. Those who narrowly escape death will never think about getting a number card again. That's why it's time to issue cards again, and everyone is here to join the fun." Looking over, Duan Yun found the queue absurdly long and said, "Even without needing silver, there are so many people? Anyway, why is that pregnant woman lining up too?" The man continued, "That's the local specialty here. The number cards have the time but not the name, and many people here specialize in this, turning a profit, and it feels great. You see, those at the very front might have been lying down since last night." Duan Yun felt a headache and said, "Why are there touts everywhere?" Having come here, Duan Yun was already certain that the target for his Demon Slayer mission was here, yet he still queued. Lining up is a virtue. After getting the number, going in to kill the whole family of the Red House girls who secretly modified public transportation is the true style of a young hero. Fenglinger couldn't understand his logic, wanting to massacre the whole family yet still lining up for a number. But she said nothing. This kind of group of Red House girls wouldn't pose much threat to Duan Yun. So she decided to go shopping, eat, drink, and enjoy herself first. Duan Yun lined up from morning till noon. This was clearly the latter part of the line, and the street became extraordinarily lively here. The shops on the side were selling all sorts of toys, like whips, masks, red ropes, exquisite wax oil, and Fusang spices. Just as Duan Yun reached here, someone came up to promote. According to the man ahead of Duan Yun, these items are for personal use, not for the Red House girls. High State people love this. Both men and women enjoy the pleasure of being disciplined. To hell with the pleasure of being disciplined. I can only say there aren't many normal people in high state. It's undeniable that the Red House girls maintain the order well, and even with many people, it's neatly arranged. But at this moment, 3 men headed straight to the front of the line. Duan Yun's first reaction was cutting in line. As someone with a penchant for seeking justice, his temper flared, and he said, "Cutters! Get to the back of the line." Faced with his questioning, the 3 men stopped. The leading man in purple showed instant anger and said, "Baka, only you lowly pigs and dogs queue." "What?" Duan Yun's forehead veins throbbed. He was furious. At this moment, the man in front quickly pulled Duan Yun, speaking to the 3 men. "Lord Hai?" He realized his mistake. He's from out of town and doesn't understand. If this grandpa wasn't in a hurry to play with your girls from the Red House, I would have killed you today and used you as a urinal. The man in purple said. "What's going on? What's going on? Would you dare be responsible for neglecting our esteemed guest, Lord Hai?" At this point, a middle-aged woman came out from the building, presumably the Madam of Qinghong building, and she scolded Duan Yun, bowing and scraping as she welcomed the 3 men inside. Then Duan Yun noticed that these 3 men's attire was somewhat different from the locals, bearing a resemblance to traditional garments from the past, and the leader's purple robe was embroidered with cherry blossoms. The people in line started complaining to Duan Yun. "Honestly, we nearly got killed by this out-of-towner." "Exactly. If Lord Hai got angry at us, we'd be in trouble." "Don't even mention Lord Hai. If the living Buddhas blame us for offending their highly revered Lord Hai and forbid us from getting a number card, what should we do then?" Upon hearing this, Duan Yun retorted, "Come on, you few are from the martial world too. After all, aren't they just outsiders like every other martial artist? Why do you need to be so spineless?" Those martial artists replied to Duan Yun with annoyance. "You're from out of town? What do you know? Those from Fusang, known as Lord Hai, rank several levels above us, even much higher than these ordinary folk in line. Calling you pigs and dogs is rather mild." Just as Duan Yun was about to speak, the man who had explained things to him earlier pulled him aside. "Brother, you seem to be from the martial world too. You outsiders don't understand, but the martial world in high state has long been like this. Anyone who arrives by boat is Lord Hai, and black people are lords. These warriors from Fusang are the highest of the high among lords." Duan Yun said, "Surely your local martial world forces don't want to stoop so low?" In a quiet voice, the man replied, "Stop talking. The reason they're called Lord Hai is that we, the maritime martial artists, truly can't win against them. Besides, today it was really your fault. We're pleading to get a number card for the ladies of the Red House, but Lord Hai is someone the ladies of the Red House plead with to show them the honor of playing. The gap between these situations is as vast as it sounds. Pigs and dogs are mild terms." At hearing this, Duan Yun's hair nearly stood on end. After being enlightened, he roughly grasped the situation. Although High State is one of the 9 provinces, it's long ceased to be the realm for the locals of High State. The martial world in High State is similar. In High State, people can roughly be divided into 4 tiers. The top tier is outsiders arriving by sea, referred to by the locals as Lord Hai, with people from Fusang being the most esteemed among them. The second tier is the major powers of High State. They can treat minor sects and ordinary folks as pigs and dogs but have to kowtow to Lord Hai, just like these Red House girls who dole out charity from high above yet grovel before Lord Hai to solicit them to play. The third tier is the lesser powers among the maritime martial artists, who can oppress common people, while the lowest tier is, naturally, ordinary people. Many of those queuing are from the lower and bottom tiers, yet they still advocate for these lords who drift in from the sea, simultaneously griping about Duan Yun's behavior. According to these people, the martial artists from Fusang are people from the heavens, naturally born with unparalleled talent, an unattainable existence for any martial artist from the 9 provinces. And these Fusang warriors even boast that if they ever had the time, they could enslave every martial artist from the Jojo martial arts as pigs and dogs. It's shocking that none of the High State people doubt this claim. Upon hearing this, Duan Yun was nearly boiling with anger. This martial world in High State is truly disgracing the Jojo martial arts, Just the thought of sharing the same martial path with them filled Duan Yun with shame and extreme displeasure. If you folks are so soft, I'll be the one to toughen things up for you. If you folks are so fond of being dogs to these outsider pigs, I'll slaughter these outsider pigs instead. Duan Yun even pulled out a small notebook and wrote down Fusang martial arts. Given these Fusang martial artists claim they can indiscriminately enslave Juzhou martial arts like pigs and dogs, and they do run rampant in high state, highly esteemed, as evidenced by the behavior of the Red House women, then his task is to wipe out this Fusang martial arts. Slaughter them like pigs and dogs. If Duan Yun says it, he does it. At this point, Duan Yun has reached the front of the line for his number card. By rights, Duan Yun didn't queue overnight, so the number he got should be one of the later ones. But now, in his hand, there was a number that he could use immediately. Now, at this moment, Duan Yun looked at the number in his hand and asked. The Red House girl responsible for distributing the numbers said, "Of course, at this moment. Take your beloved number and go find your sister to play with." His special treatment instantly made those who queued with him feel jealous. Especially because these people had mocked him before, their jealousy grew even more intense. What's the big deal? It's just sheer luck. He got a beloved number. Exactly, he's a foreigner. Got lucky this time. Unlike us who live here and can queue every time. Sigh, daring to offend Lord High and still take a beloved number, really? When mentioning Lord High, the man couldn't help but puff out his chest and made a respectful salute. The so-called beloved number is something that the women inside Qinghong Building would issue to a man in the queue they fancy, allowing him to cut the line. Mostly because they look good. Even after disguise, Duan Yun was still the good-looking type. The meaning behind these people's latter words is actually a bit of complaining that the Red House girl dared to issue a number even to someone who offended Lord High, but after thinking about it, they didn't dare. Not to mention the punishment for offending Lady Bodhisattva, just the rule of permanently not being able to queue for a number was nearly life-threatening for them. They relied on queuing and reselling numbers for a living. Duan Yun originally wanted to forcibly cut the queue and crush them all, but unexpectedly the other side was quite nice and even gave him a beloved number. With no hesitation, Duan Yun took the beloved number and went into the green and red building amidst envious, jealous, and hateful gazes from those people. At this moment, at the window on the 4th floor, 2 women in red stood leaning against the railing, watching all this. "Sister, he offended Lord High, and yet you treated him favorably. I think, sister, you just like looking at faces." The woman in red on the right laughed. "Precisely because he offended Lord High, I chose him." The younger-looking girl beside her was surprised. "Sister, are you dissatisfied with Lord High from Fusang?" The woman in red smiled enigmatically. "How could it be? I would never dare to be dissatisfied with Lord High. I intend to punish him severely on behalf of Lord High." The girl beside her's expression changed, and she whispered, "But sister, big sister said she wants to be Lady Bodhisattva long and enduring. She can't go on like this. What do you know? These people all have offended Lord High. What's the problem?" As she spoke, the woman swayed her hips and walked toward the room. She hadn't gone full strength in a long time. Today, this little wild hoof made her indulge mundane desires. Miss Chun Hai. Duan Yun's number had this name. The madam led the way ahead, grumbling at Duan Yun. This madam was precisely the one who previously welcomed the Fusang people and scolded Duan Yun. Who knows if Miss Chun was blinded by lard or something, actually issuing a number to a sinner like you. Besides a good-looking skin, what else do you have? From the moment they entered the building, the woman kept muttering, like a eunuch worrying instead of the emperor. From her expression, she seemed eager to crush Duan Yun into pieces for her master. Duan Yun snapped, "Ma'am, can't you shut up? Shut up? You, a freeloader, dare ask me to shut?" She wanted to shout but couldn't manage a sound anymore. Because Duan Yun had pressed a finger against her throat, the madam's eyes almost popped out. At this point, Duan Yun grabbed her head and said, "Watch carefully. See how I treat your esteemed lady and Lord High." The madam was lifted by Duan Yun, comparable to a silent old pigeon. Chuanxue had finished her hair, prepared her tools, ready to give her all. At this moment, she stood up, looking outside. The young man was coming up slower than she expected, so she leisurely rearranged the order of her tools. Suddenly she looked up and found a silhouette on the door's paper window. The silhouette obviously belonged to the madam. "Aunt Li, let him in." The silhouette shook its head. Chuanxue couldn't help but laugh. "Why? Is he shy?" The next moment she had to stand up. The reason being she didn't sense that young man. He didn't follow her upstairs? Did she untie her pants for nothing, with nobody coming? Chuanxue quickly opened the door and questioned the madam. "Where is he?" The next instant she was startled, because the madam didn't answer her question, and her eyes seemed troubled. The madam stared at her. Her eyeballs almost appeared to pop out, which was somewhat terrifying. "Why are you so?" Before she finished speaking, the madam gave her a finger. This finger was quick and fierce, totally beyond her ability to dodge. Although the madam was just a cheap hire from outside, usually adequate for common martial arts people, she wasn't even worth mentioning if confronting a master like her. Yet, at this moment, Chuanxue was hit. When the fingertip touched her belly, she only felt like thunder struck her, and her whole body floated backwards. She floated inside the room, and the madam followed, casually closing the door. At this point, Chuanxue realized there was another person behind the madam. That young handsome man. The young man she intended to go all out for. But why? As soon as the door closed, her stomach rumbled like thunder and instantly spread out. With a loud bang, the tightly closed window was suddenly blown open by her gas. Along with it came an upheaval in her intestines, as if someone was tugging around inside. At this time, the tags for Qinghong Building were already handed out, yet the vicinity of this building was still crowded. Some people, despite not having a tag, would sell the tag painfully after getting it, but they still found amusement. And that was watching. They couldn't play, even if it was free, they wouldn't play, they would rather sell it, but watching the Qinghong fairies was free. The fairies were quite generous, often opening windows to reveal their graceful figures. And Chuanxue Fairy, being exceptionally beautiful, with the window facing the street, was always the main attraction for spectators. At this moment, her window suddenly opened, and everyone outside was instantly alert, quickly looking inside. But one glance made everyone jump. Some even dropped their grass paper out of fright, because at this moment, they saw Miss Chuanxue levitating. It was originally a very graceful posture. After all, the fairies were skilled in Qinggong, and using some light body skills was common. But the strange thing was her backside. Miss Chuanxue kept farting, and the emitted gas was a swirling yellow-white stream, making her look like she was floating in the air because of it. Someone asked in shock, "Even fairies fart?" "You're talking nonsense. How can fairies fart or defecate?" The person who said this couldn't quite believe it himself. Some even suspected that the fairies were practicing some kind of divine skill. With a swish, Chuanxue whirled around in the air, and the airflow sent the window flying out. The force was simply astonishing. Indeed worthy of a fairy, her farting was terrifyingly powerful. Some even leaned in to smell it. The next moment, suddenly someone shouted, "Someone!" At this time, many people saw Duan Yun, the outsider who got lucky with the affectionate tag. Then they saw Chuanxue Fairy looking pained and distressed. "No, this isn't practice. What's happening to Chuanxue Fairy?" With a bang, Duan Yun pressed his palm on Chuanxue's head, causing her head to crash into an iron fixture in the room. This iron piece was originally used by her to reinforce Duan Yun's intensity, but now her forehead collided with it. Followed by the second time, third time, Duan Yun's hand speed was extremely fast. In a flash, all these iron fixtures were hanging on Chuanxue's face, dripping with blood. "No! Stop it! What are you doing to Chuanxue Fairy?" The people below witnessed this scene, feeling heartbroken and frightened, as if they were seeing something beautiful and revered being destroyed. At this moment, Chuanxue was even more terrified. The burning pain on her face was nothing compared to the fact that after being struck by that finger, Her stomach uncontrollably rumbled, and her true chi inside was frantically rushing around, making her feel like her intestines were going to twist into not just 9, but 18 turns. Through the gaps in the iron pieces, Chuanxue looked again at that handsome face. Thinking about the ordeal she was going through, she suddenly recalled a person. Could be said that the reason they came here was largely due to this person. This person targeted them. Some were unwilling to confront such a person, so they abandoned the initial Red House concept and adopted the current stance. Old Demon Duan. Could he be Old Demon Duan? Honestly, inside Red House, they had seen the depiction of Old Demon Duan hundreds of times, and she had even looked at it over 1,000 times because of her liking for good-looking things. Although the person before her was handsome too, he didn't resemble the portrait of Old Demon Duan. But at this moment, she felt they looked the same. The eyes. The kind that looked innocent and even with a bit of a medical practitioner's compassionate heart, that eye was not one just anyone possessed. No matter how skillful the disguise, it couldn't perfectly conceal one's eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul, and they best reflect a person's temperament. The object she intended to intensify and even fatally wound was actually the most fearsome assassin of the Red House. In just a few years' time, the number of Red House members lost at this person's hands probably exceeded what had been lost in decades. Where are those outsider pigs? Duan Yun asked. Upon hearing the question, Chuanxue felt her hope might still be alive. The person didn't know she intended to intensify, and since they had put down their weapons, coupled with Old Demon Duan's potential remorse, she really might survive. Without hesitation, Chuanxue decided to lead the way, saying, "Top floor. Oh. The room at the far west. Eldest sister is entertaining them." As soon as these words fell, the madam who stood there trembled. Her eyeballs finally erupted with a pop. She was nervous. She could not tolerate Lord Hai being shown the slightest disrespect, nor could she allow anyone to spoil his pleasure. Even if it cost her life, she would wholeheartedly protect Lord Hai's interests. And Miss Chuanxue betrayed Lord Hai. How could she not be anxious, so anxious that her eyeballs flew out? Duan Yun obtained the information and delivered a slap. In the eyes of others, the revered, free-to-play Chuanxue fairy was slapped out. As she flew out from the building, the rumbling in her stomach, fueled by palm force, reached its peak. Consequently, in everyone's eyes, Chuanxue fairy was coming down amidst thunder. With a crack, Chuanxue fell to the ground. Such a height couldn't kill her. Concerned people ran towards her frantically, only to hear a bang, blood splattering. Chuanxue knew she was going to die. The true chi rampaging in her stomach had just reached its peak and exploded like fire thunder. When she looked down, she could see her intestines that had burst out. Old Demon Duan would never show mercy, always exterminating everyone. The crowd couldn't help but scream and cry out in anguish, and the next moment, with another bang, another person fell dead. It turned out Duan Yun retraced his steps and threw out the madam whose eyeballs had flown out. The crowd glanced at the madam's face and immediately shifted their gaze to Chuanxue fairy, screaming and wailing as if the madam didn't exist. In the dust-washing pavilion on the top floor, 3 Fusang people faced Qinghong fairy of Qinghong building, watching her dance with fluid grace, revealing satisfied expressions. Such goods weren't things these lords typically deigned to play with, but considering her movement technique and experience, they reluctantly agreed to find some amusement. Now it seemed the amusement wasn't bad. Just then, the cries and screams from below made the Fusang people frown. "Baka, what are those pigs and dogs yelling about?" Qinghong fairy showed an expression of disgust. "These things are truly ignorant pigs and dogs." She finally stirred Lord Hai's interest, and now they're ruining his pleasure. Later, she'll kill them all. Then, she turned to Lord Hai with a sycophantic smile, saying, "Sir, the ignorant masses are as foolish as pigs and dogs. Please don't let them disturb our pleasure." The 2 tower masters of Red House were in seclusion, and since young master had fallen, Red House was in turmoil. Qinghong fairy was originally a strong contender for acting tower master, because she had been the most talented elder since Great Elder was killed by Old Demon Duan. But ultimately, she still had differences with those traditionalists, leading to considerable internal discord. Achieving this wasn't easy for them. The reason Qinghong Fairy invited Lord Hai was because she intended to go out to sea. Firstly, to avoid the chaos. After all, Red House's internal strife likely won't cease easily, and once the two tower masters emerge, they would probably side with the traditionalists. Secondly, she particularly liked Fusang, where it said the air is sweet, people's shoes are spotless, even chamber pot washing water is sweet and can be drunk, plus she felt her concepts were better suited to Fusang. That's why she took such actions. The leading Fusang person laughed and said, "Right, that's up to the tower master to show their capabilities?" Qinghong Fairy raised her hand. Her garments began to craftily expand, planning to amplify. Just then, a series of knocks sounded. "Who is it?" Qinghong Fairy angrily shouted. Outside, a man's voice rang out. "Open up! Room inspection! Open the door! Room inspection!" Upon hearing the voices outside, Qinghong Fairy bristled with anger. As the owner of Qinghong Building, she always checked on others. Never did anyone check on her. This is outrageous. Outrageous indeed. What's more insolent was the loud crash as the door was forcibly pushed open by the outsiders. How dare they intrude upon a fairy's chamber? Duan Yun stood there, looking solemn. Bastard! Bastard! The Fusang martial artists were furious. They were Lord Hai's. Nobody had ever been rude to them. Qinghong Fairy was even more enraged, cursing, "Get out of here!" Being overly agitated, she completely forgot her practiced soft high-state dialect and directly shouted in her native language. While speaking, Qinghong Fairy thrust out her right palm, sending a surge of palm force towards Duan Yun. This palm seemed ordinary, yet it concealed the terrifying 9-layered soft palm force, enough to dissolve bones. The 9-layered bone-softening palm was her signature move. But in the next moment, Qinghong Fairy paused. Because the scene she imagined, where the opponent's bones dissolved and body crumbled, did not appear. Duan Yun was still standing there unharmed, leaving her feeling slightly awkward in front of the three from High State. Is he still a master? At this moment, the three Fusang people recognized Duan Yun, who had rushed them. The purple-clad man in the lead shouted furiously, "Idiot! So it was you? This foreign pig! D!" The purple-clad Fusang man stepped forward, drawing a katana from his back. The man in the ink-purple clothes wielded a katana that was pink, frighteningly pink. As the sword was unsheathed, the entire room lit up with a pink glow, as if cherry blossoms were everywhere, dazzlingly bright to the point of barely opening one's eyes. Because he had added Fusang's pink smoke into the sheath. This was Fusang martial artist's killing move, Fallen Sakura Sword Draw. While you were still dazzled by the falling Sakura-like pink, his quick and sharp blade was already claiming lives. In this moment, the purple-clad martial artist flickered, appearing behind Duan Yun. With a clack, his katana returned to its sheath. The surrounding pink dispersed, and the Fusang martial artist stood in the wind, calm and composed. Moments later, he couldn't help but emit a startled, "Huh!" What he imagined, blood spouting from the throat and this young man falling to the ground in shock, did not happen. Duan Yun still stood there, his posture upright, making him appear somewhat vulgar by contrast. He came alertly beside Duan Yun, gripping the sword, terrified. He discovered Duan Yun was unharmed. "No, impossible. My sword." Duan Yun looked at the four, disappointedly stating, "Not even strong enough to kill, yet aspiring to be gangsters." All four were shocked, realizing Duan Yun was a top-tier master. Exchanging glances, the three Fusang men, without hesitation, simultaneously drew their swords. The three katanas burst out with dazzling sword light like flowers. Their swords were already fast and vicious, coupled with high concentrated smoke, coordinated impeccably. The three swords formed a family-unique three-sword style, giving the illusion of dozens of people wielding blades, creating a continuous sound of blade cutting through the air. Even a master of Qinghong Fairy's caliber could only lament, "Couldn't tell, really couldn't tell." With a snap, the colorful sword light and accompanying air-slicing sound vanished in an instant. The surroundings were terrifyingly silent, as if time stood still. Qinghong Fairy and the three Fusang people gaped, nearly forgetting to breathe. At this moment, they saw those insidiously treacherous katanas caught firmly by Duan Yun's palms, as if swatting mosquitoes. "Can you exert more strength?" "I'm not even sweating," Duan Yun said, his expression solemn. In this instant, the three Fusang martial artists lost their fighting spirit. Because this was their most proud killing move, yet appeared worthless in another's eyes. The disparity was rather significant. Without hesitation, cherishing their lives, they simultaneously swept back, opting to escape. After all, they were Lord Hais, the upper class, regarded as heavenly dragon people in local Fusang dialect. Their lives were precious, cannot be harmed by this random rebellious master. It must be said, their swords were fast, Qinggong movement technique faster yet. One beside was even resorting to Fusang Ninja's smoke escape skill. But that's when Duan Yun acted. He clamped the katanas with his palms, and with a rub, they shattered into pieces, shooting out like heavy rain pear blossoms. Bang, bang, bang. The window of the room was straight blown out, revealing the inside scene to the onlookers outside. Together with the scene, 3 awful cries were exposed. Lord High! Keen-eyed individuals immediately recognized those Lord High. Several ranks above them, but shortly, their eyes were filled with terror. For the 3 Lords High already had numerous blade shards embedded, most pitifully being the purple-clad Lord High. The hilt stuck in his head, making his whole head seem split open. Then they saw Duan Yun. The same man again. Such audacity, targeting goddess without mention, now daring to attack Lords High. Someone exclaimed. No sooner had he spoken than, with a thud, the esteemed Lord's High was stomped by that handsome foreign fighter, sinking the blade hilt deeper. Lord's High shrieked even more miserably. Such a scene left many people's hearts shattered. That was Lord High, the inviolable Lord High. By doing this, do you wish to see Jojo collapse? Qinghong Fairy, realizing the situation was dire, attempted to escape along the wall. Trying to run? At this moment, Duan Yun asked. Realizing her thoughts had been seen through, and without any hesitation, Qinghong Fairy activated her exquisite Qinggong movement technique, transforming her position 18 times in the span of 2 breaths. Her afterimage appeared in and out of the room, and meanwhile, she even discarded her clothing as an eye-blocking skill. Ah! Only a heart-wrenching scream was heard as the painful sword chi erupting from Duan Yun's blade accurately pierced her thigh. With a pull, she heavily fell to the ground, screaming in agony. Half a year ago, he might have needed some time to see through this woman's movement technique, as it was indeed unique, and she was evidently a master among masters. But now, Duan Yun was far from who he used to be. During the process of eliminating Red House girls, he had employed extraordinary wisdom to study the movement techniques of many Red House girls, essentially gathering a vast array of samples. Combined with his room pupil technique, which specialized in countering these flashy eye-blocking skills, it became merely a matter of a single strike. The 4 people present were all instantly taken down by Duan Yun. At this moment, the other fairies in the Qinghong building had not noticed much, because they were genuinely busy. Downstairs, a fairy was whipping someone, and the man exclaimed, "Why do I feel like there's a fight going on upstairs?" "The fight upstairs, what's it got to do with you? Aren't we also fighting?" Giddy up. With a snap, another whip struck down. The goddesses in the building were busy and completely unaware of the impending doom. The people watching below were either crying or shouting. At this moment, the cries and shouts had reached a new climax. Because at this time, Duan Yun had already gripped the head of the purple-clad Fusang man. His head already had a hole made by his own sword hilt, but now, with Duan Yun gripping that hilt, he was scared senseless. You can't kill us. We are the sons of God Ju. The sons of God Ju. Ah! Before he could finish speaking, he let out a series of shrill screams. Because Duan Yun shook the sword hilt fiercely, resembling Sun Honglei's infamous head-rubbing technique. What God Ju? God Ju? Who are you trying to scare? Subsequently, he turned to the crying and screaming onlookers below and said, Watch closely. Disobedient foreign pigs need to be slaughtered like this. With that, he gripped both sides of the Fusang man's head, wound and pulled. With a ripping sound, this Lord Hai from Fusang was torn in half. Ah! Ah! The remaining two Fusang martial artists were almost frightened to death, but they knew they couldn't faint, or they would be completely dead. At this moment, Duan Yun's shadow loomed over them. They felt as if a grim reaper holding a scythe stood behind them, causing them to wet themselves. They began to speak, begging for mercy, but all they could say was nonsense like, I'm God Ju's nephew. The one just torn was my elder brother. You shouldn't provoke him. At this point, they were truly tongue-tied. One of the Fusang warriors, in despair, said, We are outsiders, not good at speaking. Ah! Duan Yun stretched his hands, and this person was already split into two, his mouth still screaming. After the Fusang devils above were torn apart, below was a world of wailing and howling. In their words, killing this Lord Hai was akin to the end of the world. Duan Yun had torn apart three and still felt unsatisfied. Listening to the words below, such evil demons had ambitions to destroy the world. As a dignified young hero, how could he not save the world? By now, Qinghong Fairy had guessed Duan Yun's identity. This mad and crazy, yet so handsome, who else could it be but old demon Duan? Then, Qinghong Fairy shouted with all her might, Sisters, form a formation and fight the enemy. At this moment, the women who were initially engrossed in their rooms suddenly realized that there was indeed a strong enemy invading. Yes, if they needed to form a formation to combat it, it definitely was a formidable opponent. These women from the Qinghong building reacted swiftly as expected, with some abruptly leaving halfway through their activities, and the sound of windows being forcefully opened echoed together. In the eyes of the crowd, their expressions lit up instantly. Fairy scattering flower. The scene now was like countless pantheons soaring through the skies, with so many women and such a grand spectacle. It seemed even evil demons would face their doom. Suddenly, there was a flash of that ominous red sword light, transforming into countless red lines. Soon after, the most sorrowful cries resounded. These red house girls just flew out and were instantly yanked up by the solidified sword chi, forced to kneel in a row. Lately, it became apparent that the 10-layered spring rain significantly enhanced the quality of the sword chi, not only not requiring prolonged charging but also be able to be unleashed freely, inflicting immense pain, and having a tangible form that could produce effects like the chainsword. In that moment, the red house girls who flew out of the windows were all pulled up, causing the eyes of a few fishermen to burn with excitement. This scene was practically indistinguishable from the god of fishing, except the god of fishing catches fish, while the one from outside catches women one by one. Initially, the number of red house girls flying out of the windows was the largest, but they were caught immediately, so by now, the smarter ones have realized the bizarre situation and dared not come out anymore. But suddenly, there was a hissing sound, and a red house girl hiding in a room saw a red line penetrate the wall and pierce her arm, causing her to scream and fly out. Beside her, the sister who was just with her was straight up scared shitless. What kind of horror fiction is this? If the fish doesn't bite, then the hook shall bite the fish. This is the fishing technique of young hero Duan. Duan Yun activated the room pupil technique, circled the Qinghong building, and the red lines emerging from the blade caught 10 more missed targets. At this time, what unfolded before everyone's eyes was that the once kind red house girls were all captured. They were kneeling on the highest floor, kneeling in a circle, trembling and screaming in pain. Those residents from high state who cared deeply for them, many of them died of heartbreak, going before the girls did. Now, Qinghong Fairy realized the situation was hopeless. Earlier, she wanted her sisters to form a formation to face the enemy, not truly believing they could kill old demon Duan. Rather, she intended to take the opportunity to escape while her sisters fought, sparing the Qingshan for future revivals. But old demon Duan was just so ruthless. not giving her any chance, and spared no one. At this moment, her body was convulsing in pain, her head almost twisted onto her back. Crying out in agony, she pleaded, "Duan Yun, we've long put down the butcher's knife and become enlightened, always bringing fortune to the martial artists. Why do you act so ruthlessly? Isn't this against the spirit of chivalry?" Suddenly, Qinghong Fairy recalled the old demon survival principle, knowing that to survive, she must use chivalry to bind old demon Duan. Duan Yun sneered, "These so-called sayings of put down the butcher's knife, become enlightened, can be told to those you've caused harm when you go below." With that, Qinghong Fairy felt her heart freeze. It's over, the survival principle failed to work. But then, Duan Yun's tone shifted, saying, "However, I have my own interpretation of putting down the butcher's knife and becoming enlightened." All the Red House girls' eyes brightened, thinking there might be a turn. Then, Duan Yun raised his knife and chopped down a Red House girl, earnestly saying, "See, I put down the butcher's knife." Yes, he put it down, just raised it up. Put it down. Raised it. Put it down. Duan Yun chopped his way from the 6th floor to the 5th floor of Qinghong Building, with one knife per person, without blinking an eye. Originally, Qinghong Building had both green and red colors, but now it was left with only red. When he put down the last butcher's knife, everything ended. The world would no longer have the philanthropic Qinghong Building, nor the kind-hearted Red House girls. Below in the streets, at least half the people fainted. Fainted from anger, because such a thing to them was like the sky falling. Without the free benefaction of the Red House girls, not only would their play be incomplete, the terrifying part was, they could no longer sell numbers. How was that different from killing them? Old Demon Duan, do you want to destroy humanity, destroy trade, destroy love? If it can be said that when the canal opened, Wangchun City was filled with jubilation inside and out, then right now, when Qinghong Building has been completely turned into a red house by bloodshed, this coastal city is wailing everywhere, with almost everyone mourning. There's no way around it. The most bustling industry in Yunju City is basically connected to Qinghong Building. There are countless people working as scalpers. We can only say that while everyone hates scalpers, everyone wants to be a scalper. Originally, the women in Qinghong Building were free. For a time, they inflated the prices, making it ridiculously more expensive than going to a proper brothel. A lot of people here ate to their fill, and so they treated the women in Qinghong Building like they were ancestors. Now that Qinghong Building has been massacred, it's like their ancestors were slaughtered, even worse than killing their beloved grandaunt. Being a scalper is completely out of the question now, and thinking of those good days never returning makes them cry even more intensely. Of course, there are more people who are afraid. Because Duan Yun killed Lord Hai, which might offend external martial arts forces. Those hoping to serve Lord Hai as dogs won't have a chance. This might trigger the eradication of Jojo. Where did this madman come from, wreaking havoc? The foreign martial arts forces are so terrifying. This outsider skilled in martial arts doesn't understand. No matter how powerful you are, how could you possibly defeat the martial arts masters from Fusang? Duan Yun killed people and in a very delighted manner. Especially those 3 foreign pigs, who seemed to be new enemies. Killing them was particularly satisfying. No choice, killing the whole family requires the thrill of novelty. Feng Linger and Duan Yun were sitting by the street eating noodles. Feng Linger looked at the scene of sorrow and couldn't help but ask, "Why did you make such a big scene?" She had merely gone shopping, and upon returning, the lively little town felt as if the entire town had lost their mother and was wearing mourning clothes. She knew of the last time Duan Yun made half of Ishui City suffer, but that was his sword chi erupting, falling like rain across the city. Today, she didn't see a grand scene, so how did the whole city end up in mourning? How would I know? Killing a few foreign pigs and a group of evil demons, and these people became like this. The high state people, born with spinelessness. At this moment, the noodle vendor slapped the iron pot and angrily said, "What are you talking about? We're just sad, that's all. Lord Hai isn't something an outsider fool can understand. Why are you looking at me? You look like a fool from out there. I dare not disrespect Lord Hai, nor offend that outsider madman, but I can deal with you. The noodle vendor had been cooking noodles while crying and was in a very bad mood. At this moment, stimulated by Duan-yun's words, he lost control. Duan-yun didn't know that the silver from selling noodles every day had to be handed over to his wife. Leaving only a few copper coins was dreadful, and his monthly pocket money wasn't enough. But ever since Qinghong Building opened, he also lined up reselling number plates, and only then did he have true pocket money. Now his pocket money is gone, and naturally he's excited. At this moment, his eyes were fierce, seemingly full of murderous intent. Duan-yun looked at him, with a calm face saying, "How do you like my face? Damn pretty boy, this isn't you state. You can't sell your ass to beg for mercy." The noodle vendor snapped. Duan-yun continued, "Didn't you hear? The one who blood-washed Qinghong Building called himself Young Hero Duan. And people here say he is a handsome fool from outside. And there he killed one after another without blinking, probably hungry and wanting to eat noodles." At this point, Feng Linger added, "Honestly, your seafood noodle soup tastes quite good, but unfortunately the skill might be lost." Next moment, thud. The noodle vendor was already kneeling on the ground, yelling, "Father! Foreign father! Please spare me. It's my fault for being blind. I don't want to die. My wife and I have been married for 10 years, but we've slept together no more than 5 times. Last time was years ago. I forgot what it feels like. Please, I want to live." Duan-yun felt it was absurd, threw a string of copper coins and left. Duan-yun stood by the seaside, seeing the blue sea, the horizon, the beautiful scenery. He couldn't help but say to Feng Linger, "What do you think is across the sea?" Feng Linger asked, puzzled. "Across the sea? Of course, there are people across the sea." Duan-yun said, "You got half of it right. Ah, across the sea are enemies, and I plan to go over tonight and kill their family." Duan-yun said calmly. Feng Linger was shocked. "When did enemies across the sea come into play?" Duan-yun said seriously, "I believe the high-state people lack backbone, partly due to the lack of vigor among them and partly due to the enemies across the sea. They have ambitions to enslave Jojo, and have done so in high state. When I was lining up, they cut in front of me, resulting in an irresolvable grudge. Now they've been torn apart by me, but the enmity hasn't ended. Rather, because I demanded their lives, it deepened. Because he said he is the son of Wushan, over there all people are like him. His father won't let me go, so I only can go and kill his family." Feng Linger watched Duan-yun earnestly narrating these words, blinking her beautiful eyes. She considered herself Duan-yun's confidant, but now discovered she still didn't completely understand Duan-yun. Is this a bloodshed caused by Q-jumping? No, not enough. This is Q-jumping leading to a family massacre. This incident teaches everyone a very simple truth. Don't cut in line. Don't cut in line. Otherwise, you might get your whole family killed. Feng Linger still hadn't recovered from the shock and said, "You mean tonight? Right now?" After all, it was twilight already. Duan-yun nodded and said, "Of course, time waits for no one. I fear my enemies might grow old." Feng Linger said, "But we're not ready yet." Duan-yun said seriously, "But I am ready." Feng Linger said, "One way or another, you'll need a ship, a seafaring ship." Duan-yun said, "Can't we just fly over directly?" Feng Linger said, "Technically, you do have the ability to cross the sea, but only if you can ensure the direction is correct. I've heard that there are black people in high state precisely because decades ago, a ship setting off from high state veered off course and floated for a long time, thinking they were about to reach the world's end, and instead found a world full of black people." Duan-yun wasn't great at geography in his previous life, but this much was common sense. He knew Feng Linger made a lot of sense. At least for now, no black people are cutting in line, so he doesn't have to wipe out any black families. Feng Linger continued, "Moreover, if you're going to kill someone over there, you need to find a guide. You can't communicate there. So how do you find someone's family?" Duan-yun said, "You do have a point. In a month and a half, I'll have a big enough ship ready. Then you can set out," Feng Linger stated. "What would I need a giant ship for?" Duan-yun said, "If I'm not mistaken, The family you want to kill is probably rich. Once they're dead, do you want their treasures to be left overseas? Duan Yun realized, you're right. How can I let my treasure stay across the sea? The bigger the ship, the better. At this point, Duan Yun asked, you know how to build ships? Feng Linger said, I don't, but my mom does. I'll send someone to send her a message later. At that moment, Duan Yun remembered Feng Linger's stunning mother. The way she danced on the grave left a deep impression on him. The next day, Feng Linger had settled the shipbuilding issue, and they decided to return to Yun State first. This was Duan Yun's first time venturing out to sea. He didn't know when he'd return, so he had to arrange the affairs in the heroic land properly. Having mastered the blood electric skill, Duan Yun's flying speed was now very fast, keeping pace with Feng Linger in a day. They returned to Yuzhu Manor. Feng Linger, in a rather shocked tone, described how Duan Yun found the Thunder God and Mother and the Red House Madwoman. Because he recalled names from his notebook, he took another trip to High State, where during the destruction of the Qinghong building, he had a falling out with Lord Hai over cutting in line and soon had plans to kill another family across the sea. Everyone was shocked. What is it with you? You kill along your way, just finished off one batch. Then a new enemy cuts in. Do you think your enemies are like leeks from a fertile field? Brother Morong quipped. You have to admit his metaphor was quite vivid, and on second thought it was slightly terrifying. The image that popped into their heads was probably Duan Yun holding a massive sickle standing in a field where human heads would automatically emerge. These heads were mainly his enemies. The moment they peeped out, they were cut down, again and again, and so Duan Yun holding the sickle had a sense of harvest happiness. Isn't this scene bizarre and vivid? Duan Yun explained, as a young hero, I can't tolerate any sand in my eyes. Plus, this time, going out to sea to kill an enemy is one aspect, but I also have another task. The Morong brothers, having kept pace with Duan Yun's rhythm, said, Brother, you don't need to make excuses. They offended the young hero, and indeed, their whole family deserves to die. You need not explain. Duan Yun said, This isn't an excuse. Look at my sword. At this point, Duan Yun pulled out his Huangshan golden sword. The Morong brothers took a look and said, This sword is cracked. As experts in using knives, the Morong brothers were also good at evaluating swords. A light touch of the hand was enough to see that this Huangshan great golden sword had a crack. Cracked meant that there were internal fractures, even if it looked fine on the surface, but once subjected to more force, it would likely shatter. This was discovered after Duan Yun's fierce battle with the Thunder God and Mother. Both their electric powers were constantly bouncing and splashing on the sword. This Huangshan Great Golden Sword was already considered a top-tier sword, but Duan Yun had pushed it to a high intensity, and the fact it lasted this long proved its quality. The famed Saber and Wenro were fine, likely because they were both exceptional top-tier models, also because they were two of them. Duan Yun often switched them like rotating work shifts. Thus, they could last for decades until worn out and retired. Shining asked puzzled, Why do you have to go so far to find a sword? Duan Yun said, Remember the Source Palace noble? Feng Linger immediately reacted and said, You mean those two divine swords capable of reaching the heavens and the netherworld? Earlier, Duan Yun defeated that Source Palace noble and not only learned the dream-building skill, but also got some additional information. That is, this noble claimed to have always lived in the heavenly palace, but later had to use two divine swords to cut open a path, allowing him to descend to the mortal world. According to the Source Palace noble, those two divine swords were left in Fusang, in the hands of someone named Great Heavenly Dog. This trip across the sea was conveniently on the way. A divine sword of his own couldn't be left in someone else's possession forever. At this moment, Ziyu pondered, You mean this time, you're not only going to mess with God Ju, but also to ask Great Heavenly Dog for the sword? Duan Yun nodded. It's practically on the way. Do you know what kind of people God Ju and Great Heavenly Dog are? Ziyu asked. Do you know? Duan Yun replied. Of course I do. God Ju is the sect master of the Ju Tian sect, one of the three major sects of Fusang, self-styled as a heavenly god. He and his clansmen, no, I should say his offspring, are very aggressive, seemingly born with a liking for expanding everywhere, as seen in their expansion in high state. Shun Ing pondered. Clansmen? Offspring? What do you mean? Ziyu explained. The clansmen of God Ju can essentially be considered his descendants, because he claims to be a heavenly god who wants to make the divine bloodline great again. Thus, he spreads his lineage everywhere, reportedly having over 1,000 children on Fusang Island alone, with more unknown outside. Within the Ju Tian sect, from the elders in charge to the new disciples, they're basically all his children. The Murong brothers couldn't help but gnash their teeth. Having so many children, how many Fusang maidens has he ruined? He deserves to die, that scoundrel. Yes, compared to that, even their worst father seemed almost innocent. Duan Yun quipped. So, he claimed to be a direct son of God Ju, and I thought he was someone important, but he's just 1,000th of them? At this point, Ziyu involuntarily puffed out her chest and said, I absolutely must go this time. Feng Linger questioned, Why do you have to go? Do you have a reason? This matter had been entirely driven by her, so what right did this woman have to insert herself? Ziyu said, Because I know more about Fusang than you do. Feng Linger retorted, You know more than me? Where did you hear such nonsense? Ziyu said, Too lazy to explain to you. I'm also fluent in Fusang language. Upon hearing this, Duan Yun perked up and said, You're fluent in Fusang? Of course, Yoshi. Dada, Konnichiwa, Sumasen, Ik, Yame, Yamit. At that moment, Ziyu started to show off her Fusang language skills, and Duan Yun immediately said, Say no more. It's you. Ziyu jumped up excitedly. Gonna be happy. This time, Duan Yun wasn't sure how long he'd be away, because it was his first time going out to sea and his first time acting as a Lord High, with little experience. Hence, Feng Linger couldn't accompany him, because it was said that after she left with him, the public restrooms in Wangchun City got blocked, causing some disputes. The cause was a new sect called the Iron Gall sect. Contrary to their name, Iron Gall. It's not their courage that got tougher but their feces that became nastier and tougher, blocking the public restrooms. Moreover, the members of this sect particularly liked using public restrooms, as their sect's own restrooms were already blocked. Who can tolerate the restrooms getting blocked every time they use them? The Murong brothers could only prohibit the Iron Gall sect from using the public restrooms, which seemed quite overbearing and attracted some criticism. The main point from the Iron Gall sect was that they were contributing to the heroic land. Many of their members were involved in unloading goods for the cause, so doing work and not being allowed to relieve themselves, who could stand that? This was just one small matter that arose in Wangchun City, but Brother Murong complained there were many such things, tough for him to manage. Could only be said that Feng Linger truly was talent for managing the city, sometimes absolutely indispensable. Even during the 1 month or so that she was away, many in Wangchun City said, Let the young hero's Lady City Lord return. When she was around, there was no chaos. Thus, Feng Linger, being such a talent, couldn't leave for the time being. Upon hearing the title Young Hero's Lady City Lord, Feng Linger was even more reluctant to leave. She had to secure her position well. Shining also couldn't leave, because Duan Yun didn't know how long he would be gone, and as the head of the Young Heroes, once he left, Yuzhu Group's strongest forces were only Shining and the Murong brothers, and he was worried that the Murong brothers alone couldn't handle it. Thus, the only one who accompanied Duan Yun on the journey was Ziyu. Ziyu was naturally thrilled. Since this river was dug, she had some leisure time and felt bored, long wanting to go out and seek inspiration. Before hanging out with Duan Yun and the others, she was typically a prolific author, writing several volumes of Huang, no legitimate leisure books every year, and here she had been delayed. Ziyu had long wanted to go to Fusang because she previously heard from a friend from Fusang, saying that the people's personalities there are rather bizarre, especially in terms of love, making it more suitable for her to gather inspiration. That's also why she learned a fair bit of the Fusang language from her friend and knew some Fusang tales. The biting wind blew against them, and Ziyu's long hair danced wildly. "Ah, you're so fast. So thrilling." Ziyu clung to Duan Yun, appearing a bit flustered. She felt her vision blur, and her skin formed goosebumps from the sheer speed. That was a physiological reaction to intense stimulation. Duan Yun unfolded his white and red lightning wings, naturally moving at an incredible speed. It's just that the same trick, the same scene, the lines nearly identical, except the woman on old Demon Duan's body had changed. This feeling was fresh to Ziyu because she wasn't Shining, the Murong brothers, or Feng Linger. She hadn't yet mastered the technique to fly to the sky, and definitely not at such speed. For a moment, inspiration overflowed Ziyu's mind, already envisioning a scene where the heroine rides the hero in the sky, flying while love unfolds. Writing such a plot would surely be called absurd, yet it was the reality before her. After flying several hundred miles, Duan Yun landed and said, "Let's rent a carriage at the town up ahead." Ziyu asked, "You're not flying anymore?" "No more. Using blood electricity and demon electricity together makes me feel like I'm growing fur," Duan Yun replied. Ziyu looked at Duan Yun, thinking thoughtfully, "Seems like you're fast in every sense." "Yes, flying fast, finishing fast." Duan Yun, however, didn't catch the undertone. Otherwise, he'd surely make this woman understand the meaning of endurance. In high state at the Blood Banner sect, blood banners filled the land. The Blood Banner sect ranks among the top 3 long-standing sects in high state. When they killed, for every kill they would insert a blood banner into the victim. In the martial world, people feared this greatly, for seeing such a flag felt like one's fate was sealed. Now, the sect master of the Blood Banner sect, Xue Qilin, stood solemnly before a man in pink robes. The man left a big beard, his attire was a delicate pink, and if this were in Yunyu and 2 states, many would regard him as a gentle man, well worth love and care. But at this moment, this regional power, Xue Qilin, kneeled with a thud before the pink-clad man. Then followed the sound of sharp smacks. "Why? Why? Why? Why did my brother have to die there?" the pink-clad man roared. The people of High State all knew the Lord High held a high status, especially a Lord High from Fusang, acclaimed as the pinnacle among Lords High, comparable to a jade girl among imperial sister figures, not an ordinary high position. But even so, it was hard to imagine the sect master Xue Qilin would suffer slaps from Lord High. It's known that Xue Qilin was nicknamed Blood Qilin in his youth, a ruthless figure who took vengeance for any offense, having once inserted over 1,000 blood banners into a fellow martial artist to settle a grudge. The man was riddled with flags all over, with even 5 or 6 flags in one eye, yet he survived, still struggling, enough to terrify at the sight. But it was such a person who was now being slapped by the overseas intruder dressed in pink. This person was God Ju's 3rd son, Zhu Zhong, said to be one of the most useful among God Ju's thousands of children. He had always been managing high state here. Last year, his father had already said to him that he wanted to use high state as a springboard to subjugate the entire martial world. This was a grand task, although the 9 provinces martial world was a scattered mess and full of lowly breeds lacking martial talent. The vast land and large population still made it challenging to accomplish. But high state gave them enough confidence, because within just a few years of their arrival, those in high state revered them as gods. For example, the Blood Banner sect, which was quite reputable in the 9 provinces martial world, surrendered and willingly became servants after a few battles. Originally, his father was very satisfied with him because under his management, both in the martial world and on ordinary streets, high state was already solid as a rock, and no one dared to oppose them. Yet this time the Red House tragedy occurred. His younger brother was killed while playing in the Red House. According to intelligence, he was brutally murdered by someone tearing his body apart. After learning of this incident, his father was already very displeased with him. Zhu Zhong was very unhappy and afraid of such a situation. As one of the 3 most useful children for his father, although he would not fall to being used as great medicine like those useless siblings, his status would sharply decline, and he could not aspire to be the number 1 son. God Ju had a cultivation technique called World of Ju. which involved refining relatives' lives into great medicine to quickly boost power. Of course, God Ju was a good father who cared much for family, treating those used as great medicine as useless sons. In God Ju's words, those who are useless don't deserve to be my sons, and letting other siblings absorb them instead helps family prosperity. Being useless thus meant being made into great medicine, showing how hierarchical Ju's family was internally. This was also why Ju Zhong was so furious. Xue Qilin took over 10 slaps on the face yet maintained a smile, saying, "Forgive your anger, Lord Ju. Old Demon Duan is originally a madman, and many from the 9 provinces' martial world share enmity with him. But this man is strong and has survived until now." Ju Zhong spat out a mouthful of saliva, saying, "Baka! What kind of trash are you in the Jojo martial arts? Such people require my help to clean up. I want to know his whereabouts within a day." Immediately, after saying this, Ju Zhong left abruptly. The side hall of the Blood Banner sect fell quiet afterward. Though Ju Zhong had departed, Xue Qilin still knelt there, gasping for breath. At this moment, no one dared to come close. If the sect master knew someone knew about the 18 slaps he received, they would be punished deceitfully. Despite no one approaching, Xue Qilin knew that at least 10 people inside and outside were aware of him being slapped. Yet at this moment, rather than feeling humiliated, his eyes were filled with excitement. He liked it like this. He liked it like this. The next moment, Xue Qilin closed his eyes, and a flash of green and white light appeared on his face. These lights mixed with the handprints, flashing like breathing. Shortly after, Xue Qilin's mouth twisted, with a sharp gleam in his eyes. Getting slapped was something Xue Qilin brought upon himself. It all stemmed from 5 years ago when a subordinate caught a big fish in the sea. The fish was colorful like a 100-fold magnified goldfish, incredibly beautiful. As people gathered around, the fish shed tears with great spirituality, spitting out a jade scroll. Upon receiving word, Xue Qilin did not release the fish but instead killed it and used its flesh for cultivation. He knew this kind of fish was some sort of immortal thing. Though incomparable to Azure Dragon, it belonged to the same kind and certainly offered great nourishment. Back then, he ate fish meat daily, consuming 100 pounds or more each day, using half a month to finish. His power indeed increased greatly afterward, but a problem arose. He started having amnesia easily. Sometimes he forgot things within 7 breaths. However, as he completely refined the flesh, the issue of easy forgetfulness improved significantly. Thereafter, Xue Qilin devoted all his attention to that jade scroll. The jade scroll, spit out by the fish indeed, recorded a divine skill secret technique. Recorded was Dragon King's Wrath, a divine skill combining anger and endurance to cultivate Dragon's Fury. But to master this technique required enduring endless humiliation. The more sincere and genuine the humiliation, the greater the growth of Dragon's Fury. In high state, he was a local overlord, even finding people to slap him as fake couldn't cultivate the skill. Until Lord Hai started swallowing his territories, previous clashes yielded little benefits. Everyone thought he wouldn't settle without fighting Lord Hai to death considering his nature. Yet to everyone's surprise, he knelt down immediately upon defeat, willingly calling himself a slave. Indeed, only those arrogant Fusang people who treated inhabitants like pigs and dogs would sincerely humiliate him. As one of the 3 major sects in high state, his decision considerably influenced the direction of high state's martial arts. Look, even Lord Xue knelt. Don't you kneel? The Blood Banner sect thus lost much interest, its reputation reduced. But nobody knew that Xue Qilin enduring the humiliation was merely for mastering the divine skill. Endure! With his eyes sharp and speaking theatrically, Xue Qilin echoed the word. If seen by anyone, they'd think he was possessed. At this point, Xue Qilin stood up, strode toward a copper mirror in the room, and couldn't help but rub his chest. The next moment, he grinned, his mouth almost twisting towards his ear roots. This time, Xue Qilin truly laughed. This crooked smile indicated his divine skill was about to succeed. Dragon King's Wrath was about to manifest. In high state, Ever since the Red House completely turned red, sadness continued to spread. Yet some were filled with fighting spirit, eager for work. These people thrived in tea-house streets, fond of being long-winded. They naturally were storytellers. Since the last time old demon Duan spread suffering throughout the city, they lost many good hands. After the coward experts were wiped out, the bloodthirsty storyteller once lay low. No matter how much old demon Duan was depicted as heinous and vicious, it was ineffective. In fact, it had the opposite effect. This time, however, was different. Old demon Duan, well done or ill done, dared provoke Lord Hai. He even had the audacity to tear Lord Hai apart. Old demon Duan may have been arrogant in Yunyu and two states, or even in Qingzhou and Tianzhou. Certain heroes didn't bother opposing him, yet confronting Lord Hai equaled courting death. What kind of person was Lord Hai? A noble several levels above others. Many martial world people greatly admired Lord Hai, and even those who never visited Fusang or high state seas knew that their martial artists possessed unique talents unmatched by 9 provinces, with Fusang immaculate, claiming even toilet water sweeter and cleaner than water in 9 provinces. Old demon Duan was in real trouble this time. After all, these martial world folks could sell even their wives but refused to let anyone challenge Lord Hai's dignity, including people dreaming lifelong to become Lord Hai's dog. This group of people was more easily incited than the cowards. If someone spoke against Lord Hai, they'd turn into mad dogs viciously attacking. Furthermore, there was something more absolute. Bloodthirsty storytellers knew that Fusang's martial artists could truly handle old demon Duan. The representative, God Ju, even harbored ambitions to enslave the 9 provinces. Thus, they instigated rumors, claiming old demon Duan ran amok wanting to annihilate God Ju's family. Knowing God Ju's temperament and ambition, they figured such provocation not only targeted old demon Duan but placed the entire JoJo martial arts at risk of subjugation. But for justice, to dispose of old demon Duan, they couldn't worry too much. Even though JoJo martial arts faced possible enslavement by Fusang martial artists, they needed to set this fire to burn old demon Duan away. Some peers argued further that JoJo martial arts being overpowered by Fusang martial artists would be shameful. Bloodthirsty storytellers immediately responded, "What shame? That's called progress." Perhaps if Fusang martial artists controlled JoJo afterward, the martial world might be more just. The bloodthirsty storytellers' provocative words once again pushed Duan Yun to the center of controversy. After all, Lord Hai was highly respected in High State, Fengzhou, and Tianzhou. Many quietly regarded themselves as sea dogs, hoping that one day they could be chosen by Lord Hai and honorably become his servant. If they could return to the Holy Land with Lord Hai, his homeland, they would consider it a tremendous honor and would be willing for their family line to never reincarnate for 18 generations. Previously, Duan Yun's strength and reputation were already widely known in the martial world. Regardless of what the bloodthirsty storyteller said, countless people hated him to the core, wishing for old demon Duan to die unexpectedly. Some even secretly cursed him by sticking needles into paper figures, but no one dared to challenge him. But the cowards went anyway. Their will wasn't their own. They couldn't refuse the women's demands. So, when the women said that old demon Duan meant harm to them, the cowards went. The outcome, of course, was a tragic annihilation. Moreover, what shocked the martial world was that because the women of the cowards, the turtle women, didn't pay ransom, old demon Duan issued a magic kill order and killed the turtle women as well. This event left many feeling heartbroken for the turtle women. What did the turtle women do wrong? They just didn't want to use the cowards' money to pay ransom, and this choice led to their catastrophe. But the reason old demon Duan is called old demon is precisely because he's unreasonable. After this, the storyteller was worn out, as finding someone easier to provoke than the cowards was very difficult. Who would have thought old demon Duan would deliver the opportunity to them? He dared to tear into Lord Hai like a madman. One must know, the sea dogs are more aggressive and protective than the cowards. They always revered Lord Hai's homeland as the Holy Land, dreaming of kneeling and paying homage, considering Lord Hai's urine as holy water, claiming it cured all diseases. Some sea dogs who have been fortunate enough to drink the holy water say it tastes sweet, very delicious. With such a collective, the plan to eliminate Old Demon Duan had hope. The bloodthirsty storyteller even fabricated rumors, insistently claiming Old Demon Duan intended to kill the entire family of God Ju, aiming to drag him into the conflict. Once God Ju steps in, Old Demon Duan is definitely doomed. But the bloodthirsty storyteller didn't know their concocted tales would become a prophecy. Because Old Demon Duan truly intended to kill God Ju's entire family and was on his way on horseback. Impossible. Even if Old Demon Duan did kill 2 of Lord Hai's people, he'd definitely say it was accidental. Exactly, figures like Old Demon Duan and God Ju, would they really fight to the death? Surely Old Demon Duan would admit a mistake and kneel, giving God Ju a chance to back down, and that would be the end of it. In the tea house, those who understood the martial world shared their insights. In their eyes, Old Demon Duan and God Ju are both top-notch masters, superior even to the most exquisite women. Such masters wouldn't start a real fight over such trivial matters. Even if death were involved, it would be the subordinates who would first fall, rather than these great figures fighting directly unless the situation spirals out of control. The bloodthirsty storyteller's rumor-making was exposed, and he couldn't help but curse. Bullshit! How can it be fake? You people don't understand Old Demon Duan's ambitious nature, nor the untouchable status of Lord God Ju. As long as Old Demon Duan is alive, his treacherous heart remains. Only death can solve it. The crowd below couldn't help but laugh, saying, "Take that to Lord God Ju and see if he'll fight?" For a moment, the bloodthirsty storyteller, gritting his teeth, was about to unleash the voice of temptation. Just then, loud shouts erupted outside. "Report! Urgent report! Old Demon Duan! Old Demon Duan is really coming this way." Hearing this news, everyone inside and outside the tea house was stunned. Even the bloodthirsty storyteller was shocked, saying, "No way, Old Demon Duan, are you serious?" And with that, High State was in chaos. Fengzhou was in chaos too, and so was Tianzhou. In short, everywhere sea dogs gathered became chaotic. This is largely due to the bloodthirsty storyteller's relentless momentum and rumors, aiming to roast Duan Yun on a spit, so the conflict between Old Demon Duan and God Ju had become widely known across several states. Now with Old Demon Duan heading to High State, this hype burst wide open. Initially, only those loyal sea dogs and hidden sea dogs, furious and sleepless for Lord Hai's sake, were the ones ready to bite. Although they were many, they weren't the majority. But at this moment, hearing Old Demon Duan moving towards High State, the martial world practitioners from several states were all in turmoil. Because this signified an opportunity for entertainment. While there are many sea dogs, compared to people who love a spectacle, they seem few. It's just like how Duan Yun has always been trendy, setting the pace wherever he goes. For example, now he's heading to High State, so everyone's following. Because everyone wants to see what he's up to. Surely he can't really be going to kill God Ju, right? Of course, some were rational, analyzing and believing Duan Yun came to make peace. What you said makes sense. After all, it's Mr. Duan, young hero Duan at fault first. Proactively seeking peace is human nature. Hearing Duan Yun is coming, those who usually speak of Old Demon Duan now refer to him as young hero Duan. Because this was like a curse. Once it reached Old Demon Duan's ears, your life could be taken at any moment. Old Demon Duan's stinginess is well known. I heard he's bringing a woman. Could it be that he wants to? I've only heard of others offering women to young hero Duan. Even the Tang sect gifted their most beloved young lady to him. Never heard of him offering anything to others. But you must know, that is Lord Absolute Heaven God, from the holy land of Fusang, a god. Upon hearing the word God, many people couldn't help but looked reverently to the sky, as if they had seen a real deity, their eyes full of respect. Many people speculated like this. If a fight didn't break out, these martial guests who came from afar would inevitably be somewhat disappointed. After all, they came for the spectacle, and the bigger the spectacle, the better. Yet at the same time, they wouldn't be overly disappointed either, because seeing Old Demon Duan concede was an extremely rare spectacle. For since Old Demon Duan's debut, he had never conceded. These people calmly analyzed that old demon Duan might be conceding and seeking peace, but the bloodthirsty storyteller was sweating on his forehead. There's a saying in the martial world: the person who understands you the most is not your spouse, parents, or your closest friends, but your nemesis. The enmity between the bloodthirsty storyteller and Duan Yun was irreconcilable. If given the chance, they would rather sacrifice everyone's old mothers and offspring than spare old demon Duan. Thus, they understood Duan Yun the best, continuously collecting snippets of Duan Yun's behavior. These behavioral snippets would even be sent to Tai Sui, and upon analysis with Tai Sui's supreme wisdom, old demon Duan's characteristics would be deduced. And their conclusion combined with Tai Sui's supreme wisdom was that old demon Duan was a man as petty and reckless as could be. Such an old demon Duan couldn't possibly concede. There was no possibility of old demon Duan conceding, yet he was coming this way. Then the answer could be speculate. Old demon Duan, are you serious? Are you really going to challenge the esteemed absolute heaven god? If so, wouldn't their wish come true? It's just that their plan was for absolute heaven god to find trouble with old demon Duan, yet unexpectedly old demon Duan came first. This seemed to be headed for mutual confrontation, with the situation looking promising, yet the bloodthirsty storyteller still felt a bit odd. The oddity lay in the fact that old demon Duan was even more insane than they imagined. For such a lunatic, even Lord Absolute Heaven God might have to suffer some injuries to take him down. While they were worried for Lord Absolute Heaven God, they also eagerly anticipated this could be the end of old demon Duan. Because no matter how you looked at it, this was the most anticipated, most promising opportunity in the entire martial world. The most promising opportunity. Within the Blood Banner sect, the continuous slaps resounded smack, 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 smack. Zhu Zhong was slapping Xue Qilin's face, laughing heartily. The news indeed came fast. You're actually somewhat useful. He kept slapping Xue Qilin's face, nearly deforming his mouth, all the while masking a certain emotion of his own. He ordered to find old demon Duan's location as quickly as possible. To outsiders, it seemed once he learned of old demon Duan's whereabouts, he would ruthlessly kill him, but in truth, he was calmer than others imagined. Zhu Zhong, though he looked down on everything and regarded the people of Zhuzhou as pigs and dogs, still understood there were experts in the 9 provinces martial world. He wasn't his father, who had the strength to sweep across the 9 provinces, and this old demon Duan, who so arrogantly tore his brother apart, must have some capability. His plan was to gather intelligence on old demon Duan, then begin assembling men, attempting to settle the matter through stealth, assassination, or simply an overwhelming attack. The plan might require several discussions, with 2 primary plans and 3 backup ones devised. Following the procedure, this would take at least several months to half a year. This was also why the Zhu family had long planned to subjugate the 9 provinces martial world, but had made no significant progress. The Zhu family's process is such to repeatedly discuss after discussing, plan after planning to achieve perfection. This sudden arrival of old demon Duan, as if targeting himself, on the contrary, calmed him down even more. At this moment, he just happened to face Xue Qilin's face full of slap marks, crooked by his hand. This face hadn't changed much from when it was slapped, not a single change. Yet Zhu Zhong felt there was some deep meaning and anticipation in the other. Anticipation for the Zhu family's means and abilities to suppress everything. At this moment, Zhu Zhong couldn't remain calm even if he wanted to. He couldn't possibly appear less forceful in front of the pigs and dogs he slapped himself. Thus, Zhu Zhong waved his hand and ordered, "Someone, bring me my divine weapon. I won't let this brother-killing enemy leave High State alive." Yes. After that, Zhu Zhong left with his subordinates. Xue Qilin watched Zhu Zhong's departing figure. His mouth twisted even more. The intense humiliation increased his divine skill, and the upcoming commotion excited him immensely. He could both cultivate amidst humiliation and watch the spectacle. Unlike anything else, it was double happiness, akin to fire and ice together. He was very much looking forward to the performances of the Zhu family and old demon Duan. Duan Yun and Ziyu sat inside a luxurious carriage, directly facing a row of drawers. Inside the drawers, not only fresh fruits but also rich wines and various side dishes could be found. At this moment, Duan Yun and Ziyu were drinking wine inside, reportedly a specialty from Little Yu's hometown. It tasted nice. While they were drinking, the night light cup could be placed and picked up easily, for the carriage was so stable that the wine inside wouldn't spill. The luxury of this carriage wasn't just external, but also included the coachman. This was a top-notch coachman among thousands, with a sweet appearance and incredible driving skills, claiming to satisfy all the passengers' journey needs, including special requests. In short, apart from being expensive, there were no shortcomings. At this moment, Duan Yun lifted the curtain and glanced outside, saying, "Why are there more and more people along the way?" He had been to High State before, and last time the road wasn't this lively. Yet this time, everywhere they went seemed like they were heading to a grand festival. Ziyu looked at him and said, "Could it be possible that all these people are because of you? Because of me?" In the next moment, Duan Yun realized and said, "These guys are here to watch the spectacle." His first great battle was at the graveyard, and even now many people from the martial world went there to visit, showing how idle and fond of spectacles these martial artists were. It had been 3 years since the battle at the graveyard, with people still watching the outdated spectacle, so now it was understandable for many to come to see his fresh spectacle. Duan Yun couldn't resist picking up the night light cup, taking a sip of wine, and exclaiming, "Well, it's just as well. Let more people witness my boundless heroic chi. If a few people can awaken their sense of chivalry because of this, it can be considered a good deed." After arriving in High State, the carriage headed straight for the White Cloud port by the sea, because the large ship prepared by Fenglinger for them was over there. More accurately, it should be called a giant ship, one large enough for Duan Yun to load plenty of treasures. But from afar, upon seeing this giant ship, Duan Yun still felt it was overly enormous. Seeing that ship, he even felt a sudden urge to become a king of the sea. It was impossible for anyone to build such a large ship within 2 months. Not even the purple-robed Dragon King. The giant ship prepared for Duan Yun was actually reconstructed from an old ship. This old ship was originally called Ji Mei Hao, once owned by a sea merchant most fond of beauties, reportedly able to accommodate 208 beauties at the same time, comfortably serving him. Every beauty could also live comfortably on it, which showed the vastness of the ship. But there was a period when the ship hadn't moved, even abandoned, due to a collision with an iceberg incident, where many died, including the sea merchant's beauties. The sea merchant only felt the ship was unlucky, having collided and repaired, so he no longer used it. Now, this ship was purchased by Fenglinger and was undergoing final modifications. Duan Yun looked at the busy figures on the ship and asked the steward, "How much longer?" "Mr. Duan, please rest assured of what the lady ordered. 2 days, at most 2 days, it will carry you through the waves." Duan Yun nodded, quietly admiring the colossal structure at the port. At the same time, watching were also many onlookers. By that time, this crowd finally realized that old Demon Duan was serious. He was going to see. Was he really planning to go to the holy land of Fusang? At this point, Zhu Zhong had already arrived near the port. Along the way, he had heard various rumors, with all of them placing the Zhu family in high regard. No wonder they were deities by nature. And at this moment, hearing that old Demon Duan might not be coming for him, but rather intending to sail to their base, Zhu Zhong was shocked. Treason, outright treason, daring to go to Fusang without facing me? He was determined to see old Demon Duan die here. At that moment, Zhu Zhong gazed at the sky covered in dark clouds, his face revealing a sinister look, and said, "Truly a good weather for killing." The sky was ominously overcast, looking like a storm was about to hit. Fishermen by the sea were the most attuned to the weather. Seeing these clouds, the harbor was already crowded with boats. Of course, there were also those who, looking at the weather, rushed out to sea because they needed to contend with the waves for their training. Like now, someone deliberately cut themselves, then let the surging waves crash over them, emitting sounds indistinctly between pleasure and pain. This was the unique training method of the local high-state gang, Salted Vegetables Gang, claiming to train the body into the most invincible pickled dish, capable of transcending all. Usually, when the Salted Vegetables Gang trained, many people would watch. After all, this kind of humming surfing method was quite unique, and people loved the spectacle. But at this moment, there weren't many watching their performance, because everyone's attention was on that person and that ship. Previously, when the Jime began being refurbished, it had already attracted quite a bit of attention. After all, the Jime was famously known as the ship that had struck an iceberg. Colliding with an iceberg at sea wasn't easy, and returning with its hull intact was even harder. This already popular ship had now reached a new level of renown, because now they discovered it was Old Demon Duan's ship. Is Old Demon Duan planning to set sail with such a big ship? Gaju hasn't issued any decree against him for his mistakes. Could he dare to provoke Gaju, like rumors say? Of course, more people thought Old Demon Duan was going personally to offer his apologies, and building such a large ship was to show seriousness, possibly bringing 100 beauties with him to apologize. But gradually, people realized something was amiss. If beauties were to be aboard such a big ship, there were none besides the one accompanying him. Thus, the question of why Old Demon Duan is setting sail is everyone's main concern. This port city has been overcrowded for days. Duan Yun gradually adapted to the situation. No choice, his fame was like, "I am the sun," the brightest wherever he went. Even if a storm was coming, or perhaps the rain hadn't come, but the wind did first. The crew working on the ship had their pants blown away by the wind, yet they continued unwaveringly. This newly overhauled Jime, even under such conditions, proceeded orderly with finishing touches. This is what being professional means, because the harbor was surrounded by so many people. Those who couldn't squeeze and shouted loudly, "There's thunder! It's going to rain. Hurry home and collect your clothes." But no one paid attention to him. During such spectacles, people wouldn't even leave to catch adulterous spouses at home. Rumble. Soon after, the thunder indeed came. The thunder at the seashore was astonishingly loud, flashing and roaring as if someone was transcending tribulations. As soon as the thunder came, torrential rain followed. A group of people instantly turned into drenched chickens, yet they persisted in watching with eyes wide open. Yes, a living Old Demon Duan was not commonly seen, because at this moment, Duan Yun had descended from the ship, admiring his Jime in the rain. At Yuju Manor, he liked digging cellars because it was a relatively secluded space. In there, he always felt particularly peaceful, as if everything from the mortal coil could be completely isolated. At this moment, he felt this big ship would become a similar place. In his spare time, if he could sail freely on the sea, exploring more places, seeing more scenery, it would be delightful. Duan Yun stood in the rain, without using breaking body sword energy to keep off the rain, while beside him, Ziyu elegantly held an umbrella. Except most of the umbrella was over her own head, leaving Duan Yun quickly halfway drenched. Such a handsome man and beautiful woman standing in the rain became a splendid scene. People drenched in the rain watched Old Demon Duan and Ziyu, while Duan Yun and Ziyu looked at the big ship, thus becoming scenes of each other's view. But just then, someone walked over. No one saw how he leaped through the crowd. This place was jam-packed, many securing spots using pile skill, more stable than columns, not allowing for squeezing through. Some even had 5 steel nails secretly inserted in their rear to stay put, watching the situation below. Yet this person simply walked through, silently, or perhaps he belonged there. If he weren't there, heaven and earth would feel a bit discordant. At this moment, Ziyu noticed his presence, and unconsciously exclaimed, "Eh!" Just as she wanted to turn back, Duan Yun held her shoulder, saying, "Don't move." Instantly, Ziyu's skin prickled, because then she sensed that eerie killing intent. This person had hidden his killing intent within the thunder and rain, now omnipresent, rendering his killing intent also pervasive. She even felt that if she moved rashly, her head might be severed. Duan Yun held Ziyu's shoulder under the umbrella, appearing as intimate lovers enjoying the rain scene. This scene left many bloodthirsty spectators entranced. And there were those who, just as their view was blocked by that individual, couldn't help but complain, "Hey, the one carrying the coffin, could you make way?" But when he uttered these words, he himself was taken aback. It was only then that he realized the person standing there was as eerie as the netherworld. Gradually, more people noticed this person's presence. Those knowledgeable had their eyes light up, saying, "This is not good. That's a master fighter." At this moment, a local bloodthirsty storyteller from High State stared wide-eyed and said, Could it be Lord Zhuzhong? Zhuzhong, a name as loud as thunder in High State. If the heavenly god is a deity in their eyes, then his most capable son who operates in High State is undoubtedly divine too. Because of his longer stay in High State, the people there held even more reverence toward him. The heavenly god is terrifying, yet he barely sets foot in Zhuzhou, unlike his son, who could smack the sect master of the Blood Banner sect like a dog. Heavenly God might be powerful, but he wouldn't chop across the sea to claim your life. His son could, however. Lord Hai is the most noble person in High State, and in some sense, Zhuzhong is the pinnacle of Lord Hai. They had previously discussed if old Demon Duan was going to cross the sea to plead guilty, he first had to kneel before Lord Zhuzhong, and then kneel all the way to the heavenly god. Old Demon Duan, truly clueless, didn't even know the etiquette of apologizing. Now, with Lord Zhuzhong suddenly appearing there, what does that signify? From here, those three figures ahead appeared calm. A couple standing under an umbrella enjoying the rain, and the one with the coffin on his back appeared like a lone dog enviously watching it all. This was similar to many of the single, bloodthirsty spectators. Yet, at this moment, no one thought that way anymore. Because the people in front had already felt a surge of killing intent. What was initially a secure, prime position involuntarily withdrew more than 10 steps back. Because the people in front clearly felt the killing intent. Such palpable killing intent. It was as if the area ahead had turned into a minefield. Stepping inside meant being obliterated. And those within the minefield? What about Duan Yun and Ziyu? Ziyu, also a master in swordsmanship, didn't dare to move. She didn't dare move at all. Under the oppression of such killing intent, she found herself riddled with flaws, and hadn't Duan Yun stopped her, she might have already succumbed. This kind of killing intent and techniques, perhaps even the sub-branch masters of the Netherworld Mountain Villa, who excel in assassination, would find hard to achieve. Zhuzhong stood there, satisfied with all he had done. He had mentioned before it's a good day for killing, for he indeed possessed such a supreme skill, the thunder-shocking slash. It's a lethal move that completely merged himself with the heavenly thunder and torrential rain. Once unleashed, none could survive. At least in his glorious track record, no one had ever escaped this slash of his. Previously, he had a bit of restraint towards old Demon Duan, but this perfect weather, and the relentless boasting from High State people, now coupled with this perfect weather, even the heavens seemed to aid him. Aid him to annihilate this mad dog who caused him disgrace in front of his father, and death of his dear brother. At this moment, Zhuzhong was filled with absolute confidence. Throughout his life, he faced all sorts of emerging experts, having killed so many renowned fighters in his homeland Fusang. He couldn't count them all with his two hands. And ever since arriving in High State, he had swept through opponents with ease. This smooth sail through High State, especially seeing the Blood Banner sect kneel halfway in submission, made him, like his father, look down upon the experts of Zhuzhou. Compared to the experts of Fusang, these people here were truly subpar. And while he initially took old Demon Duan seriously, by now he had changed his view. This move of his took upon the might of heaven and earth. It was an impeccable killing move but had a gap before unleashing. In his homeland Fusang, more than one expert had sensed the danger before he moved and had reacted. Yet old Demon Duan didn't even have the slightest response. This was truly lacking. Zhuzhong stood there coldly and said, "Where do you plan to sail to?" Duan Yun, without turning back, still held Ziyu's shoulder, replied, "What do you think? Baka, if you wish to beg forgiveness, you must first ask me. This sea listens to me without my permission. How dare such a cur set sail? Zhu Zhong scoffed. Hearing that baka, Duan Yun knew the opponent's trick, saying, "Beg forgiveness? I'm heading over to kill that pig of a heavenly god and his entire family. So, are you one of those pigs as well?" Hearing Duan Yun still daring to rant in such a situation momentarily fueled Zhu Zhong's anger. However, he quickly calmed down, saying, "You think by provoking me, there's a way to survive? My sword chi is already in fusion with the forces of heaven and earth. You, a mere mortal, do you think you're worthy to duel with me? Kneel, and later I might let you die a less painful death, maybe even spare your woman." With a thunderous roar, lightning struck, making Ziyu's heart pound uncontrollably, because she could already feel the killing intent spreading with the thunder, ready to tear them apart at any moment. Over the recent days, her swordsmanship had improved greatly, having traveled the martial world for inspiration, gaining quite a bit of insight. But she had never imagined one's sword technique could be like this terrifying. Yet at this time, she could feel Duan Yun remained calm. At least his hand was stable, continually resting on her shoulder. Was this guy trying to take advantage of me before dying? Yes, letting him enjoy before dying might tarnish my fairy Ziyu's pristine nature. But in the end, her beautiful heart was kind. She could also accept this. In the next instant, Duan Yun's words pulled her from her wild thoughts back to reality. "Is that so? If your sword's that formidable, then go ahead and chop," Duan Yun said lightly. Zhu Zhong's eyes turned vicious, as if icy sword chi flowed within, saying, "You really want to die? I don't wish to die, but I can't seem to die. Why haven't you struck yet? Are you afraid it won't kill me?" Duan Yun continued lightly. Zhu Zhong, who was extremely confident, began losing a piece of it, for he suddenly couldn't assure a single slice kill. He was fused with the forces of heaven and earth, the opponent's back wide open, as if at his mercy. Yet throughout, the opponent remained effortlessly confident. This fellow seemed so ordinary. Why such confidence? "I dare you to chop." Afraid to chop? You call yourself a gangster? Duan Yun continued to mock. If you were filled with hot blood, being mocked like this, you might well have swung the chop. Yet Zhu Zhong still didn't chop. His confidence began to wane. Supposedly being one with the forces of heaven and earth was enough to destroy everything. But this person before him stood there, embracing his woman, as if unto himself a separate world. Whether his world's blade could reach the opposing world remained uncertain. Zhu Zhong's sweat had begun to seep out. Behind, discussions were bustling among many. "No way? Really? The invincible Lord Hai hasn't chopped. Lord Hai should just be a lenient god. Yeah, Lord Hai didn't smite him. Surely he's soft-hearted. Otherwise, why wouldn't he chop? No way? Really? The invincible Lord Hai hasn't chopped. Lord Hai should just be a lenient god." His confidence began to wane. Supposedly being one with the forces of heaven and earth was enough to destroy everything. But this person before him stood there, embracing his woman, as if unto himself a separate world. Whether his world's blade could reach the opposing world remained uncertain. Zhu Zhong's sweat had begun to seep out. His confidence began to wane. Supposedly being one with the forces of heaven and earth was enough to destroy everything. But this person before him stood there, embracing his woman, as if unto himself a separate world. Whether his world's blade could reach the opposing world remained uncertain. Zhu Zhong's sweat had begun to seep out. His confidence began to wane. Supposedly being one with the forces of heaven and earth was enough to destroy everything. But this person before him stood there, embracing his woman, as if unto himself a separate world. Whether his world's blade could reach the opposing world remained uncertain. Zhu Zhong's sweat had begun to seep out. Zhu Zhong believed his foolproof thunder-shocking slash would triumph, yet he himself met death. His body split into two halves, and even as his brain divided, he continued to ponder the reason why. Indeed, this strike was quite the pinnacle of assassination attempts. If one fell within the realm of its sword chi, it was akin to confronting heavenly thunder. Even enemies more formidable than he, when caught off guard by this move, would struggle to escape and survive. Unfortunately, he encountered Duan Yun. Zhu Zhong's strike involved the manipulation of electricity, but he stumbled upon the ancestor of electricity mastery. Now, Duan Yun's body contained both demon electricity and bloodline electricity, equating his prowess with the immortal thunder god and mother, who were also defeated by Duan Yun, let alone a mere warrior like him. This is what, without a clue, arrogance amounts to. Consequently, his thunder-shocking slash not only failed to assist in killing but rather hastened his own demise. Few noticed Duan Yun's subtle move just now. With a mere flick, he deflected Zhu Zhong's electric slash back at him. Currently, Duan Yun's mastery over lightning is perfect and meticulous, and this spontaneous deflection arose as inspiration from the previous battle between the cowardly expert and the Murong brothers. It can be said, the more ferocious Zhu Zhong's blade, the quicker his own death. Ironically, his intent with this blade was purely mortal. Zhu Zhong's body split into two halves, yet he struggled as if trying to stand. This was due to God Zhu's unique bloodline, which endowed his offspring with exceptionally vigorous life force. Seeing this, Duan Yun couldn't help but exclaim, why? As soon as Zhu Zhong's left side tried to speak, there was a bang, and Duan Yun kicked this half away, forever separated from the other half, ceasing its struggle completely. The surroundings fell eerily silent, as if thunder and rain became mere background noise. Xue Qilin, sect master of the Blood Banner sect, stood among the crowd, dumbfounded. He stealthily accompanied them to watch, seeking entertainment, and slightly itching to make a show of it. If Zhu Zhong and Old Demon Duan were equally matched, he'd happily witness mutual destruction, then step in to dispose of Old Demon Duan, showcasing his Dragon King feats while gaining the upper hand, becoming the hottest anti-demon hero in the martial world. It would be the perfect return of the Dragon King tale. The thought alone thrilled him. At worst, if Zhu Zhong was inferior to Old Demon Duan, he could intervene. Collaborating with Zhu Zhong would get rid of Old Demon Duan, slaying demons while putting on a show for Zhu Zhong. After being slapped countless times by that guy, the idea of flaunting himself in front of him made Xue Qilin want to chuckle softly. But what's the result now? Zhu Zhong was instantly killed. The ruthless reality slapped his face like the cold rain. Xue Qilin abruptly realized he hadn't endured enough slaps. His mouth wasn't crooked enough. Only if his mouth twisted to the back of his head could he confront Old Demon Duan. With Zhu Zhong dead, he'll need to find someone new to give him a good face slapping. Only fitting to say, Old Demon Duan is truly malicious, with his wrongdoings innumerable. Just then, someone suddenly cried out loudly, shattering the silence. Lord Hai is dead. Gentle and divine, wise and heroic. I mourn the death of Lord Hai blessed by holy water. The crying stirred some sea dogs, stunned by Duan Yun's fearsome might. Up until now, prevented from sobbing. Now couldn't hold back anymore, joining in the collective wailing. Ah, Lord, you are dead. How do we survive? Should we remain on this filthy land, breathing the same air as these impure people? Ah, my God, my dream saintly land. Listening to these cries, Duan Yun briefly believed it was the sea's voice. The next moment, he arrived at the crowd's forefront. The gathered crowd scuttled backward in haste. Someone almost shouted, "Retreat! Old Demon Duan is coming!" Survival instinct quickly silenced them. Those mourning sea dogs attempted to quiet themselves, but emotions were too uncontrollable to quell. "Bring them over," Duan Yun ordered. Ziyu followed the command, her form moving through a series of fleeting, shimmering leaps, until individuals continuously flew in this direction. A moment later, the space ahead was filled with dozens of people. Duan Yun looked at them, asking, "Are you Fusong people too?" The group shook their heads, tears in eyes. "I, the young hero, slayed an evil demon from Fusong. Why are you mourning? Does this imply you are also evil demons?" Duan Yun stated earnestly. We. Damn your mother. Hesitating even when lying. You truly are spiritually Fusong people." Duan Yun, enraged, swung his blade. The painful sword chi emerged like red lines, penetrating these sea dogs. Immediately, agonizing screams arose. Ah! Unbearable pain. How is this more painful than my previous drenched state? Pain. It's killing me. A group of people squirmed like maggots, bodies twisting, mouths contorting into distortions. Xue Qilin briefly imagined seeing himself. Really, what kind of sword chi is it that causes ordinary people's crooked mouths to match mine? Boo-hoo! I was wrong, wrong. I no longer wish to be a sea dog, nor wish to tour the Holy Land anymore. Stop, stop. I don't want to father children throughout my body. Wah wah. Some were already madly banging their heads against the ground, hoping to faint, but painful sword chi's horror lay in torturing without granting any fainting mercy. You can only enjoy it. At this moment, several people were already in a daze. Lord Hai has come to take me. I can finally be a dog. Lord Hai, old demon Duan doesn't act like a human. You must uphold justice for us. Duan Yun looked at them and said coldly, I will set out to kill every member of your Lord Hai's family, leaving none alive. I will destroy those places you adore, completely obliterate them. No, please no. Upon hearing that the lords of Hai could be threatened and that the Holy Land could be desecrated and destroyed, the sea dogs instinctively shouted. Even if their own mothers or sons were to be destroyed, they wouldn't be this agitated. Because in their hearts, they never belong here. In their next life, they would definitely be part of Fusang's Black Land. At this time, a stubborn sea dog shouted, Old Demon Duan, if you have the guts, kill me. Lord Hai is a god, an invincible god. You will surely be cursed by the heavens and be torn to pieces. Duan Yun sneered, If you don't die from pain, you can watch with your own eyes how I kill them, just like how I killed this thing. Saying this, he stepped on half of Zhu Zhong's head, crushing it into mush, looking every bit the hero. Some sea dogs couldn't breathe from the pain, some convulsed like gluten, and some heard Duan Yun's words and their eyes nearly burst. At this, the bloodthirsty storyteller sat down on the ground. True. It was actually true. Old Demon Duan wasn't going to beg for mercy. He was going to kill. To Fusang's holy island to kill. He, such an evil demon, was going to a holy land to cause chaos. With Zhu Zhong's death, everything was settled, and the debate about whether Duan Yun was going to apologize or cause trouble was laid to rest. Zhu Zhong, one of God Zhu's most useful sons, and the face of the Zhu family in high state, even such a gentle person was killed, leaving no room for reconciliation between the two sides. This old demon Duan is truly wicked to the extreme. Many people from high state roared internally. In fact, there were indeed many mentally sea dogs here, who always believed that if the Lord of Hai ruled the 9 provinces, it would surely be more beautiful. But with old demon Duan having such a bad relationship with Lord Hai, wouldn't this make Lord Hai misunderstand their attitude? Young hero Duan, we support you. Suddenly, someone shouted. They were a group of simple men, still wearing minks during these high state days when everyone wore single shirts, eager to hang all the valuable things their family owned on themselves. These people clearly did not look like locals. They were martial world people joining in for fun. To them, who the people of high state respected so highly, Lord Hai was nothing special in their eyes, and with rumors that those outsiders wanted to enslave the 9 provinces martial world, they were even angrier. Now, with the spine of high state broken, this martial world widely known unforgivable demon standing up against these Lord Hais, even wanting to fight back to Fusang, was indeed satisfying. So they loudly supported Duan Yun. Everyone around cast unfriendly glances at them, but those wearing minks didn't care. At this time, a short, stout man got off the Jimei ship and respectfully said to Duan Yun, Young hero Duan, the Jimei ship is ready and can set off at any time. I am called Ghostfoot 7. Madame has long instructed that if you wish, I can bring a few brothers as sailors. This person named Ghostfoot 7. Duan Yun couldn't help but look at his foot, and found that his right foot truly had 7 toes. Ghostfoot 7 noticed and chuckled. Madame says I was born for this work, with 7 toes gripping the deck securely. Every time he mentioned Madame, the man's eyes were full of reverence. Duan Yun couldn't help but think of that figure in purple, unparalleled elegance. He looked at Ghost Foot 7 and said, "You all have worked hard these past few days. Rest well and prepare today. Depart tomorrow at a time you decide. All right, young hero." At this time, the crowd that had been watching Duan Yun began to disperse, some running quickly. Duan Yun couldn't help but ask, "Why are they running?" Ziyu replied, "Just now I heard." Some people reacted quickly, wanting to follow and watch the excitement. There might only be so many ships to see, so they're rushing to get on one. Yes, some say even if they don't go themselves, reserving a spot on the ship could earn them a lot. Duan Yun couldn't help but scoff. "Why are there scalpers everywhere?" Ziyu shrugged and said, "Can't help it. Too many people want to see the spectacle." Sure enough, because of the scramble for ship spots, some people's brains nearly got knocked out that day. There was a ship, the captain said not to have so many people, and wanted to leave ahead of schedule that day. As the ship left, there were still many people hanging on the hull and bow, which in Duan Yun's eyes was even more exaggerated than Indian trains. He even thought that because there were too many people hanging on the starboard side, the hull was tilted. At this time, the captain couldn't help but shout, "If you want to hang on the ship, fine, but you can't skip paying hanging tickets, 30 taels per person, food extra. Fine, as long as we make it to Fusang. Whatever it takes." To watch the show, these people were willing to go all out, though many amongst them, many from high state, wanted to reach Fusang early to inform Lord Hai, lest he be unprepared. One could say, from the scene of heads flowing at the dock, and again overflowing on the ship, it was evident that Duan Yun had created yet another martial arts spectacle. The bloodthirsty storyteller saw this and was green with envy. How does this guy always manage to find the most popular spots? The 9 provinces martial world was thrown into chaos by him, and now he's going to leech off Fusang's holy island. But at this time, there was a gleam in the bloodthirsty storyteller's eyes. This is what they had been eagerly awaiting. Truly the most hopeful demon slaying yet. But demon slaying, you still have to rely on Lord Hai. Duan Yun looked at the thumping crowd on the dock and couldn't help but say to Ghost Foot 7, "Can this ship also take some people along?" Ghost Foot 7 said, "Of course. The Jime ship can easily carry 1,000 people. If young hero wishes, we just need to load up some more supplies." Let's take 500 then." Saying this, he looked at Ziyu and said, "Later, I will pose a few chivalrous questions. Those who answer correctly will qualify to board this ship." Later, there was talk that the Jime ship would also carry people, even hundreds, and the fare was reasonable. Thinking about being on the same ship as Duan Yun, some couldn't help but hum in anticipation, and so the crowd surged forward. "May I ask, in your opinion, what is chivalry?" Chivalry is to act fiercely, to act as one pleases. Get out. If you were a great hero, what would you most want to do? Of course, to learn from young hero Duan to slay demons. Too vague. Be more specific. Then I would help clear the outhouses of all our town's neighbors to prevent them from stinking up the place during rainy seasons. You qualify. In the end, the Jime ship had 500 more people. Watching as the Jime ship set sail from the port, many couldn't help but grumble. Why don't I have any heroic route? I couldn't even answer such simple questions. Others looked at the smooth hull of the Jime ship and couldn't help but slap their thighs. Such a big ship. It's a pity they aren't selling hanging tickets. If you're not an old hero, who is the old hero? After saying that, the man himself was a little fearful. If last time Duan Yun's bloodbath of Qinghong building was considered a sneak attack, with some believing the lords of Hai weren't prepared, this time it's hard to say anything. After all, this time the sneak attack was on Zhu Zhong, and it was Zhu Zhong who died, dying so quickly. However, the sea dog still had excuses, viciously saying, "It must have been because Lord Zhu Zhong was too gentle, held back, while old demon Duan was extremely cunning, and took advantage to harm Lord Zhu Zhong. Lord Zhu Zhong, you shouldn't have been so gentle." At this, someone wearing mink, hearing this statement, couldn't help but gleefully sing, This damn gentleness makes me tremble. Tremble till I lose control. Tremble till I die. Goose, goose. On the sea voyage, the G-May was bustling yet disciplined. The people aboard were from all corners of the martial world, daring enough to come and witness old Demon Duan's spectacle. It was certain they weren't the quiet type, especially with hidden sea dogs and demon haters among them. But upon boarding this ship, they became orderly, polite, and even showed a sense of vigor. Duan Yun, observing from the upper deck of the ship, felt that they were undergoing self-imposed military discipline. These people had no choice. Sharing a ship with old Demon Duan, knowing that he might secretly be watching them from above, how could they dare misbehave? Even when they relieved themselves, the men stood with their backs straight, faces serious, fearing that if they urinated slightly off target, they'd incur Duan Yun's wrath and meet disastrous ends. In the martial world, those techniques like falling, electric shock, finger strikes, combined electric and finger strikes, and the grimaces of pain they had witnessed earlier, none would be pleasant if inflicted upon oneself. Duan Yun likely didn't realize this himself. His most renowned skill in the martial world was his finger skills, especially towards women. His skill had been completely demonized, and women would feel an inexplicable clarity, with some even fearing to the point of a soft whimper. In the martial world, the term "babies stop crying" was used to describe the terror of demons. Yet Duan Yun's reputation reached the level of women's wisdom. One must know women are often difficult and sometimes utterly unreasonable. But once someone mentioned being dealt with by old Demon Duan's demon finger, women immediately became reasonable and wise. The women in the martial world, most were the sorts that were defiant and capricious, wanting nothing more than to domineer over others, while around them were often the cowardly men who listened to them. This combination was especially common. But on this ship, the demon reputation of old Demon Duan had instantly suppressed such women, especially since Duan Yun had not only killed many cowardly masters but also wiped out many turtle women when he refused to ransom people, increasing his demonic reputation. With women being suppressed and self-demanding, the cowardly men who followed them naturally demanded more, thus forming today's military-style management. Duan Yun was unaware of this, and couldn't help but remark to Ziyu, "Look, those who passed my young hero exam do, indeed, have higher quality." Ziyu was silent, only focused on eating fish. One could only say that among those left behind by Feng Linger's mother, each was a talent. Ghost Foot 7 steered with extraordinary skill, and his subordinates were highly impressive, organizing the great ship orderly. Even the chef's cooking was exceptional. Whether it's grilled fish, roasted fish, steamed fish, or fried small fish, all are fish, yet each with its unique flavor. Since boarding the ship, Duan Yun and Ziyu had been staying in the top room, rarely seen. Though people aboard hadn't seen him, they still strictly managed themselves. In their hearts, old Demon Duan wasn't present, yet was everywhere. On this day, Duan Yun unusually appeared on the lower deck, and the first thing he did was jump into the sea. He leaped down, a rope tied to his foot, resembling fishermen battling and fishing in the sea. But as the ship was advancing so quickly, how could fishing be possible? Soon, people realized Duan Yun wasn't fishing, but sleeping. This guy was sleeping in the sea. This was Duan Yun's first sea voyage. Everything here was novel to him. In just these few days, he had witnessed the sea's vibrant diversity. When the weather was good, the sea resembled a gentle, elegant lady. The sky was clear like a wash. The sea and sky converged. When the weather was bad, the sea became akin to the mad woman of the martial world. The water turned dark, storms raged, waves seemed like ancient beasts ready to devour everything. At this moment, Duan Yun intended to further understand the sea. Like sleeping in the sea, the rope on his foot was tied to the ship. Wherever it went, he would follow. And he could indeed sleep in the sea. Even with his level of mastery, relying on extended inner breath underwater without needing to breathe was tough, much less sleeping. For humans ultimately weren't fish. But Duan Yun could, because long-term use of breaking body sword energy meant many of his body pores could breathe. This way of bodily breathing was akin to fish gills, allowing him to sleep like a fish in the water. This time of year, even with the warm sun, the sea water remained intensely cold. Duan Yun lay in the sea water, letting himself drift attached to the ship. Due to the ship's fast speed, along the way, he even collided with and killed several fish. Duan Yun hadn't gone into the water many times, but nor was it few. At Yuzhu Manor's outer lake alone, he had ventured down numerous times. But this was Duan Yun's true first dive into the sea. The sea differed completely from the lakes and waters, for it was just too vast, too deep. The ice-cold sea water enveloped Duan Yun's body, now amidst a layer of light blue and dark blue sea water. The sea water where sunlight could reach was light blue, beautiful like crystal, and as the water descended deeper, its color darkened until pitch black. Seeing the boundless dark seabed, Duan Yun finally began to understand why humans fancied the existence of dragons, water ghosts, or massive sea creatures here. For it was simply too vast, too dark, too deep, deep enough to accommodate any imagination. And what truly lay in this strange and mysterious world beneath the sea was uncertain. Because at this moment, he even found evidence of the possible existence of aliens. The difference between seawater and freshwater is that it contains salt, which is somewhat salty, what is often referred to as the taste of the sea. People, when keeping their eyes open for a long time in this kind of water, would find it tiresome. So Duan Yun simply decided to sleep. Watching old demon Duan sleeping while floating in the water, if they didn't know his terrifying methods, they might have thought he drowned. Ghostfoot 7 and his 3 subordinates watched this scene, their eyes filled with envy. They've been out in the sea for a long time, their swimming abilities were exceptional, yet they knew they could never reach this level in their lifetime. And even if they dared to boast, even the lady known as the Purple-Clothed Dragon King couldn't reach this level. No wonder the lady is so concerned this time. I always thought it was about the young lady, but it seems it's really about her own son-in-law. How can one not be concerned about a son-in-law? So, are you impressed with this son-in-law or not? Would you dare to be unimpressed? Not to mention the daring part, just the ability to sleep in water. I, Wang Lulu, am impressed. At this moment, Wang Lulu, with some worry, said, "This time young hero Duan is going to Fusang to kill the Fusang devils. How likely do you think he will succeed? The Purple-Clothed Dragon King reigns supreme on the seas, and there are many large forces at sea, among which the pirates from Fusang run rampant, leading to inevitable conflicts. So Ghostfoot 7 and Wang Lulu do not refer to Fusang people as Lord High, like the people of High State do. They call them Fusang devils." Ghostfoot 7 and others were so motivated for this task not just because the lady ordered it but also because they had a favorable impression of Duan Yun. Just the thought of the hand-tearing of devils event at Qinghong Building is exhilarating and satisfying. At this moment, the Jimei boat suddenly shook. Ghostfoot 7 and Wang Lulu couldn't help but look at the sky and found it was still clear, but the shaking of the Jimei was very real. With his extensive experience, Ghostfoot 7 immediately reacted, saying, "Could it be we've hit that sea god?" As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Lulu and several others quickly moved to their positions. Ghostfoot 7 was about to call Duan Yun up when suddenly a massive wave seemed to rise from nowhere, lifting the entire ship upward. With this lift came a chorus of screams. Many people were originally on the deck watching Duan Yun sleep in the sea, and with that toss they were sent flying. These people, being from the martial arts community, didn't panic completely. The experienced ones used the 1,000-gene fall technique to stabilize themselves. Yet before they could execute the 1,000-gene fall, the wave rushed horizontally. Boom! In this wave impact, many people were thrown into the sea. For a moment, screams filled the air. A person dressed as a doctor, holding a semi-spherical soft cushion, cried anxiously, "Madam! Madam! Where are you?" Earlier, the water had come too suddenly. In that critical moment, he grabbed at his wife, but now all he had left in his hand was this soft cushion, which his wife usually used to pad things or as a large accessory. Duan Yun was sleeping peacefully in the sea. But suddenly, the rope under his feet tightened, and his whole body started to roll violently. He felt like he was inside a giant spinning washing machine, rolling continuously. Around him were dense bubbles. He couldn't see anything clearly. He quickly activated the room pupil technique, prying clouds and seeing the sun. Suddenly, a shadow was swept over by the sea and brushed past him. He quickly reached out to grab the other. The next moment, he hesitated. He only grabbed half of a semi-spherical soft cushion while the person continued to be swept away by the sea. He quickly twisted his body and chased after. With a splash, Duan-Yun lifted the woman out of the water and landed on the deck. By now, the once clear weather had turned cloudy, and it started raining heavily. The change was faster than a woman's face. Duan-Yun came to Ghostfoot 7's side and asked, "What's going on?" Ghostfoot 7 gripped the deck tightly with his toes. His hands clutched at the helm, veins popping out on his forehead. He forcefully replied, "In the water, there's likely a sea god. We just have to endure it." A shriek erupted, and a few more were thrown into the air, landing in the sea. Duan-Yun's figure flickered, and he plunged into the sea. He managed to retrieve a few and toss them onto the ship, but found the entire ship was rolling violently. For instance, by now, the whole ship was about to tip over. "How do you endure this? Will my ship capsize on its maiden voyage?" Duan-Yun suddenly recalled Ghostfoot 7's words. "There's something in the water. If this thing is causing trouble, won't killing the whole family of this thing solve it?" Without any hesitation, Duan-Yun drew his saber and was about to leap into the sea. Ghostfoot 7 suddenly realized what Duan-Yun intended to do and quickly shouted, "Young master, you can't provoke the sea god." But before he could finish, Duan-Yun had already leapt into the sea. He had gone below, yet his voice floated up. "You can't provoke it, but I can?" With a thud, after Duan-Yun entered the water, he darted downward like a sharp arrow. Torrents of bubbles accompanied by violent currents surged upwards, as if trying to tear him apart. The deeper he went, the more the currents grew violent and capricious. Duan-Yun felt as if he was being quartered by 18 horse-drawn carts. At this moment, even just swimming became arduous for him. Breaking body sword chi column. Sword chi erupted from Duan-Yun's body, forming a column that pierced downward. The violent currents shattered under his sword chi column, spreading chaotically while Duan-Yun continued downward. From afar, he seemed like he was wielding the divine needle to stabilize the sea. "Young hero, I'm going to speed up now. Keep braking for me." While Duan-Yun thrust out the breaking body sword chi column with both hands, he kicked his right foot, generating another sword chi column with toe strength. This sword chi column wasn't as thick as the one in his hands but proved highly efficient. Because when the water encountered it, not only was it pierced by the sword chi, but it was also sprayed by the flirtatious toe strength. Indeed, the water sprayed everywhere, forming a hollow water cavity. And at that moment, through the water cavity, Duan-Yun saw a large creature. A pitch-black object, like a cloud, floated in the sea. At that moment, he even heard a voice resembling a woman's song. Could it be this thing that's causing trouble? Without a second thought, Duan-Yun continued his downward thrust, accompanied by his rotating sword and saber. Love Unlimited. At that moment, Dharma Image Xiaoyu manifested, enveloping Duan-Yun, forming a massive sword blade storm that smashed downward. With a boom, the entire sea shook. Water streams scattered like arrows, shooting everywhere, instantly killing all nearby fish. The sword and saber energy of Love Unlimited continued whirling madly. Even through the membrane created with Xiaoyu, Duan-Yun could feel that he collided with a living entity. He could clearly feel its flesh. Thick, smooth. Keep going. Dharma Image Xiaoyu's eyes focused, and the sword blade storm descended at an even faster pace. By now, the turbid sea was filled with a thick scent of blood. It was the sword blade storm that shredded the creature's flesh. The moment the fishy stench hit his nose, the singing Duan-Yun heard turned piercingly shrill, as if countless women were cursing him with screams. He could clearly feel its flesh. Thick, smooth. Keep going. Dharma Image Xiaoyu's eyes focused, and the sword blade storm descended at an even faster pace. By now, the turbid sea was filled with a thick scent of blood. It was the sword blade storm that shredded the creature's flesh. The moment the fishy stench hit his nose, the singing Duan herd turned piercingly shrill, as if countless women were cursing him with screams. He could clearly feel its flesh. Thick, smooth. Keep going. Dharma image Xiao Yu's eyes focused, and the sword blade storm descended at an even faster pace, especially with old demon's finger skills. Duan kept drilling into the sea god's body, using all his strength, relentlessly, until he completely pierced through. In the instant it was penetrated, the massive entity, like a mushroom cloud, began to violently tremble and convulse, causing intense waves. To the people aboard the Jiming, the sea appeared to be boiling. Amidst the boiling, they saw red. No, it was blood. The previously dark, deep blue sea had now rippled into a bloody red. Blood pooling in the quiet sea. What an apocalyptic scene of an evil demon emerging. Afterward, they saw a person slowly rising from the blood pool, and someone exclaimed in shock, "The evil demon has emerged." Upon closer inspection, realizing it was Duan, he said, "Oh, it's just the demon." The next moment, he shivered and shouted, "No, it's the hero emerging." When Duan leaped back onto the deck, the boiling sea water was gradually calming down, but it was becoming increasingly red. At this moment, Ghostfoot 7 steadied himself on the bed, exclaiming in panic, "Young master, a big fish, I've just killed it. After searching around, I saw 2 smaller ones like it and killed them too." Ghostfoot 7 felt a shiver down his spine, inwardly amazed. The whole family of the sea god was killed? The so-called sea god refers to the massive creatures within the sea. For sea folks, some of the big things in the sea are named, others not. Those unnamed but extremely ferocious that can stir storms are respectfully called sea god by them. When Ghostfoot 7 previously roamed with the purple-clad Dragon King, the ship's captain encountered a sea god, and usually had to randomly grab 2 children from others on board to sacrifice to the sea god, not daring to offend. But the purple-clad Dragon King feared none of these large creatures, just ordered them to steer the ship properly, and each time managed to turn danger into safety. Ghostfoot 7 had never encountered someone who would jump off the ship to kill the entire family of the sea god over a disagreement. From the sea god's perspective, it seems too discourteous for an outsider's first time at sea to want to exterminate their whole family. However, now they can't protest because they are already dead. Completely dead. As the sea turned scarlet, 3 carcasses of fish monsters floated up. These 3 large fish, the smallest was as big as a large ship, and the largest among them was astonishingly grand. It looked flat, its body stretched out like a mushroom cloud. Duan just felt it looked like a variant of a devil fish, only exceedingly large. The center of this fish's body had a massive bloody hole, clearly caused by Duan as the fatal injury. In fact, its injuries were more severe than they seemed. Logically, such a big fish, even pierced with such a massive hole, shouldn't have died so quickly. But besides this big hole, there were countless smaller holes inside its body. This was because the dispersing sword chi was still traversing within it, causing extensive destruction, so much so that the monster fish's flesh could easily be used to make meatballs. By this time, the ship had stopped. Next up was retrieving people. This group of martial world people was inherently selfish, yet thinking that this was Duan ship and recalling the survival principles of the old demon, some jumped down without another word. To survive, they too wanted to be helpful heroes. Those skilled in swimming jumped down, and those who lost their wives also jumped down to retrieve them, surrounding the Jiming. Strangely, once the monster fish died, the once cloudy and stormy weather cleared up, revealing bright sunlight. At this moment, the ship's cook came over, seeing the entire family of the sea god. Couldn't help but exclaim, "Good heavens! This meat is more than enough to eat." For this burly cook, while alive, this creature was a worth-revering sea god. But once dead, it was merely ingredients. Saying this, he leaped below. Ziyu also jumped down to study this sea god. This wasn't her first time to the sea, but it was her first time seeing such a massive creature. After all, for ordinary people, surviving after a sea god stirs waves is considered fortunate, let alone having the chance to see a slain sea god surfaced for examination. The cook, with nimble skills, soon jumped onto the sea god to begin scavenging. As a cook, he aimed to find the finest meat. Soon, he discovered that the inside of the sea god appeared like minced meat, feeling a chill down his spine. Indeed, killing the sea god wasn't an easy feat, and the illustrious Mr. Duan and young hero Duan on board was far beyond his imagination. If this young hero Duan engaged in butchering, what would become of the cook's livelihood? Finding the meat, the cook quickly dove into the sea god's blood-soaked body, and Ziyu soon went down through a strange hole on the monster fish's body. This swirling hole was barely the size of a well's opening, and with Ziyu's expert judgment, it seemed unlike something caused by Duan Yun's sword and saber energy. It looked more like a natural growth of the fish. After a while, Ziyu suddenly emerged, with a disgusted look. "This fish meat is inedible." The cook, surprised, asked, "Miss Z, why? Why can't this fish be eaten? It seems perfect for making stew." Ziyu pointed at the hole. "See for yourself." The cook, gripping a butcher's knife, descended. It didn't take long before he came up with a pale face and said, "This really can't be eaten." When Duan Yun asked what happened, he learned about the horrifying scene inside the cave. He personally went down once. Just as Ziyu had observed, the cave entrance was located on the side of the giant fish's body, and it wasn't caused by his love unlimited but was naturally formed. As soon as Duan Yun entered, he found that the flesh was even harder with a spiral texture, and at first glance you might think you've entered some special machine shop. The mouth of the cave was very deep. Duan Yun slid all the way down, and only then did he reach the bottom. The next moment his scalp tingled. At the bottom of the cave there were human corpses everywhere. They were densely stacked together, probably stuck by the mucus secreted by the monster fish, so at a glance, all you saw were faces filled with either fear or terror. Even Duan Yun felt a chill. This fish being called an evil demon is a light condemnation. Such a thing being referred to as a god only shows that this world hasn't eradicated demons harshly enough. Be it on land or in water, it's full of monsters. Duan Yun thrust his famous saber and Wenro directly into these corpses. Then he circulated his true chi and yanked upward. Boom, boom, boom. A series of violent explosions sounded, as the monster fish's mountain-like body continued to rupture, with Duan Yun pushing the group of corpses upward. These bodies had already been completely bonded together by the mucus, so when the fish's body burst open, what appeared was a giant ball composed of corpses. Some people, upon seeing this scene, were scared witless, while others who originally tried hard to hold it in couldn't resist and quickly started vomiting. The cook's face was ashen, having lost all thought of making a sea god banquet. At this moment, Ghostfoot 7 looked at a part of the corpse ball and said, "Aren't those people from the Sea Cucumber Gang?" The Sea Cucumber Gang was a significant force at sea, and the members of the gang liked to eat sea cucumbers. It's said that after eating sea cucumbers, their diving skills and footwork would improve dramatically. They once had a grudge against the Weisha Gang over a ribbonfish. That night, the Sea Cucumber Gang brought iron balls to the Weisha Gang's stronghold, and using remarkable footwork skills, kicked the iron balls like a game of kuju, forcibly exterminating the Weisha Gang. Afterward, the fame of the Sea Cucumber Gang rose greatly, causing even the price of sea cucumbers to soar. After all, everyone wanted to eat sea cucumbers and master the Sea Cucumber Divine Foot, and the selection criteria for the outer disciples of the Sea Cucumber Gang required everyone to eat sea cucumbers every meal, to eat their fill. Due to this, countless families went bankrupt from eating sea cucumbers, and how many people truly mastered the Sea Cucumber Divine Foot is unknown, but the Sea Cucumber Gang certainly made full coffers. Subsequently, the gang leader even acquired a big ship not inferior to the Jime, and took over 100 beauties aboard to celebrate with the core members of the gang the Sea and Sky Feast. Strangely, after this outing, the Sea Cucumber Gang never returned. Not a single piece of news, as if they vanished into thin air. The Sea Cucumber Gang's gang leader and core members disappeared, causing this once famous Sea Cucumber Gang to fade into oblivion. It now seems that during their feast, they were swallowed by the sea god. This is what it means to be joyous to the point of tragedy. This is it. Duan looked at these corpses, human corpses, and the monster fish's body and said, "We can't bring these corpses ashore. They must be burned." Ghostfoot 7 said, "Young master, we didn't bring enough black oil on this trip, and such a large pile of corpses on the sea won't be easy to burn completely. So-called black oil is likely a substance similar to petroleum in this world." Duan said, "No need for black oil, mine will do." Saying this, he punched, and a brilliant heroic fire lotus flew out, igniting the pile of corpses along with the fish's body. The fire burned even more fiercely than black oil. Ghostfoot 7 quickly maneuvered the ship to distance it, fearing even the Jime would be set ablaze. Everyone was initially shocked by the sea god's enormity and the horror of the corpse ball, but now they were even more frightened by Duan methods. This demon not only perforated the sea god completely and cruelly killed its family of 3 but also could control flames. In the martial world, some have trained in fire palms or fire fists, but they typically only manage to fry an egg, and to be able to cook meat on a person's body to maturity with one palm is already Grandmaster level. But Duan fire was simply outrageous, because not only did it burn fast and fiercely, but it could also burn madly in water, even giving people the illusion that this fire could boil the sea, igniting the sea water. Could it be he also has fire god martial skills? After ending this tumult, the Jime continued forward. Everyone felt thrilled, glad they came. They hadn't even reached Fusang yet, but just the scene of killing the sea god was worth the ticket price. Even if someone lost their dearest loved one, like a man who couldn't recover his new bride, since, at that time, it was so chaotic and the sea so turbulent, finding someone was akin to finding a needle in a haystack, yet he also felt it was worth it. At least his wife died in the excitement, he also saw the excitement, it was worth it overall. He was not overly saddened because there were still barely 32 wives waiting for him at home. To reach Fusang, even traveling at full speed on the Jime, it would still take quite some time. Because when sailing, the helmsman could control part of it, but much more relied on the weather. If the wind was favorable, it'd be smooth sailing. If the weather was adverse, the journey would take longer. At night, the sea at night was beautiful, yet mysterious and profound. Lights brightened the Jime, with Duan and Ziyu sitting under the lights, feeling as small as a drop in the ocean. In this dark and profound sea, only the lights from their ship illuminated, making it feel particularly isolated and lonely. Both had a constant illusion that as the ship sailed, it would enter an unknown world. That world was chaotic, confusing, endless, and one might be forever lost in that vast chaos. Whether the clouds in the sky or the sea here, both gave that feeling. Because whether it's the sky or the ocean, what humans can conquer is quite limited, extremely small even. In the end, human beings have limits. Duan couldn't help but reflect, with my extraordinary wisdom, can I break the shackles of humanity itself? He always thought of himself as a rare genius in cultivation, young and handsome, with a future infinitely bright. But at this moment, facing the vast ocean, with many areas he had not, or could not venture into, filled with unknown secrets and treasures and the world's filth, Duan couldn't help but desire to become stronger, even wanting to foresee the future, to see how strong he'd be then. As soon as he thought of this, Duan couldn't suppress his excitement, feeling a surge of passion and exuberance. In an instant, he noticed Ziyu looking at him with strange, even guarded eyes. Duan asked in confusion, "Why are you looking at me like this?" Ziyu asked, "What were you just doing?" Duan replied puzzled, "I wasn't doing anything, just envisioning the future." Ziyu rubbed her eyes and explained, "Why did I just see you and get the feeling that you were going to grow fur all over?" Duan looked at his arm and said, "I do have quite a bit of hair myself." Ziyu shook her head, "Not that kind of hair. I can't exactly explain it, just a feeling." Duan suddenly thought of something and said, "Is it a feeling that I would grow red fur? A sense of ominousness? Ziyu exclaimed in surprise. Yes, exactly that feeling. What's happening to you? Duan Yun looked at his seemingly normal body again, even pulled open his trousers to check, found nothing ominous, and said, Haven't you heard the story of the Morong ancestor's ominousness in his later years? Ziyu shook her head. He never told me. Duan Yun said seriously. It seems I'm indeed a one-of-a-kind martial arts prodigy. The gap between Morong ancestor and me is evident. He was ominous in his later years, while I feel I might be experiencing it early. Yes, he felt he just lacked an opportunity for ominousness at such a young age.